Hey now, happy Thursday afternoon. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dorzinski and Dan Lucero here with you with a full show today. How about that? A full 3 hours for the first and only time this week.
It's going to feel like running a marathon after the shorter versions of the program the last 3 days.
We're happy to be here with you. 3 until 6 today. Plenty to get to. A lot of news just within the last hour to hour and a half. In terms of our local teams. And we'll get to all of it over the next 3 hours. We'll talk some Royals here in just a moment. You have to take everything. I think you have to, what's a disaster for one team is not a disaster for another. What's a huge success for one team is not always a huge success for another. Everything is relative in sports. And I think you have to temper the good and the bad with a team as bad as this year's Royals, because we know they're bad. We know the talent is bad. We know the front office of years past put this team in a bad situation now and for the near future. Understand all of that. All that being said, this week's series against the Marlins, a total disaster. I mean, just a miserable 3 days of baseball. The first game, okay, it's competitive. You blew the lead. You probably, that decent game, whatever. You got outscored 12-2 in the last 2 days. You are now 0-13 in Jordan Lyles starts. How? How is that possible? Do you know how many times that's happened in baseball history that a team has lost the first 13 starts of a player's season?
I actually do know this because I probably saw it the same place you did, but it's only ever happened twice.
Twice in the history of baseball, at least the modern era, 1901 on. It has happened twice before, now 3 times. And, I mean, look, Lyles wasn't good yesterday, but he also wasn't horrible. I mean,
7 innings, a 3-run ball, and, he allows the first 2 to reach in the 8th, and Jose Cuas lets them both come in to score, so it makes the final line look worse. But 7 innings, a 3-run ball, you will take from Jordan Lyles any day of the week. Losses are not solely a pitcher stat. We know this.
Mm-hmm.
And the last 2 times out, Jordan Lyles has been fine. And there have been other times this year where Jordan Lyles has not been the reason the Kansas City Royals lost. But every time he pitches, they lose. It's a strong correlation at this point, you would say. It is 100% correlated. Jordan Lyles pitches, the Royals do not shake hands at the end of the game.
The sad thing is that he's not even getting the worst run support in all of baseball. I took a look earlier today. Guys who have had at least 10 starts, I mean, it's not good. It's not like he's getting a lot of run support, but it's only like the bottom third or so. I mean, he's not at the very bottom. It's not like he's getting a run and a half per game. No, I mean, the Royals have, for their standards, been almost relatively competent offensively in his starts. Not last night. They were not at all competent last night. And the Royals ended up getting swept. They had 3 hits for the game, Dan. One of them came after the 3rd inning. It was when they were down by 5 runs in the 9th. And Vinny got a double. Good for Vinny. Snapped an 0 for 17.
Needed that.
That's just miserable. We'll talk a little more about them coming up here in a minute. But good God, just terrible, terrible baseball the last 3 days from the Kansas City Royals. They're off today, and you know what? I need it. I need a Royals off day more than they do at this point. Goodness gracious. Also this hour to lead things off, we'll play some either or over under, and Rick Peterson is going to swing on by on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for this week's Invista Credit Union High School Whip Round. 4 o'clock hour of the show today, we'll do some crosstalk with Jake. He'll stop in. Busy week for Jake with Fulton out on vacation, but he'll stop by, chat with us at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll also talk to Tim Fitzgerald today. Didn't get to yesterday because we were on for about 8 minutes. So Fitz is going to join us today for the Wildcat wrap-up brought to you by Azura Credit Union. We've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll do What Is Wrong With You, all that and a whole lot more coming up on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. We would love for you to be a part of the show. Hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429. Or you can jump into the comment section on YouTube. The name of our YouTube channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Go subscribe if you haven't already. Check us out. We're live streaming. Video is on right now. We'll be here for the next 3 hours, and the comment section's wide open. First comment of the day from our guy Vance. All caps. Go Nuggets. Big night last night.
I agree. I concur. My hat, Maxi Minor, concurs.
That was a very impressive half. The second half last night.
I did not think we would get the Christian Brown game in the NBA Finals.
Glad we did, though.
Let me just say that. And
awesome.
It's probably deeply unfair to refer to the Christian Brown game when two of his teammates had 30-point triple doubles. But it was a Christian Brown game. And it was really, really neat to see the internet, A, learn who he was, and B, maybe they'll get his name right now.
Well,
I'm not holding my breath, but
yeah,
maybe they will literally put some respect on Christian Brown's name and pronounce it correctly.
I have some very strong thoughts about Jeff Van Gundy in particular. But no, that was extremely impressive for CB. 2 games away from being one of the very few players in all of NBA history to have an NCAA championship and an NBA championship back-to-back years.
So I think he would only be the 4th.
Incredible. That is absolutely unbelievable. So I'm glad he had a big game. They won by 15. He scored 15. They might still be playing if he hadn't been in that game.
Does Christian Brown usurping Michael Porter Jr.'s rotation minutes count as another win for Kansas over Missouri?
Yes, it does. One of those schools had a player show up last night, folks, and it wasn't the one with the Tigers as their team mascot. He's bad.
He'll be fine.
He will be.
He's just, the shot's not falling. He gave him good defensive minutes in the third. I'm sorry to get too deep in playoff roundup stuff to lead off the show.
Better than talking about the godforsaken Royals.
That's a fact.
3 hits.
One of us in whatever the audience might be right now. So you might be listening to us. Maybe you're listening to us with friends. I don't know. That's up to you. But maybe you're listening alone. So it's the 3 of us. It's me, Brendan, and you, the listener. One of us, me, has the team who won last night. And that's a pleasant thing to talk about.
Yeah, my baseball team is a bunch of idiots, too. And it isn't the Royals. God.
I barely even remember I have a favorite baseball team at this point. So,
see, that's the nice thing, though, about when you have a team that's good and winning.
Yes, diversify your sports portfolio.
When the Cubs won the World Series, so 2016, that was also the year that Aaron Rodgers made his "we'll just run the table" comment after week 9 or 10, whichever week it was. Up until that point in the season, it had not been an especially enjoyable Packers year. They were very middling until they got hot at the end. So I just focused all of my attention on that Cubs playoff run. It was awesome. I didn't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah.
Got to the World Series. Packers turned it on. I thought, damn, this is the best year of my life. That same November, Kansas also beat Texas in football. That was like the best sports month of my life. It was that very month. All right. Again, text line's open. Comment section on YouTube is open. I probably shouldn't be this upset about the Royals. Like, why is this loss or these last 3 losses, why are they more impactful than any others this season? But damn, man, it's just brutal.
It's so grim, and it gets more frustrating. Like, it is June 8th, and the team that is leading the American League Central is a 500 baseball team.
Yeah.
Even if you were just bad, you'd be in the hunt, like the White Sox. They're bad, right? Mm-hmm. 27-35. That's bad. If they were in the National League West, they would be like a game and a half up ahead of Colorado. So they'd be about 9 games behind Arizona. Call it 10. They'd be 10 games behind Arizona for first place in the National League West. They are 4 back in the Central. All the Royals had to do was be bad, and they would be in the hunt. We would be saying, hey, one hot week, they could be in first place. That's all they had to do. That's how low the bar is in the Comedy Central this year. All they had to do was be bad, and they would be in the hunt for the division. They couldn't even get there. And a big part of the reason they haven't been able to get there is because of Jordan Lyles. And I don't mean to be too hard on the way he pitched specifically yesterday. He made one terrible pitch that got hit over the fence for a 3-run home run. It was the deciding blow in the game for Miami. It was also the 18th home run that Jordan Lyles has given up in 73 2/3 innings. That 18 home runs given up leads the American League. You will be stunned to hear. And in fact, I believe that leads all the baseball. So that's what Jordan Lyles is. Mark on the YouTube comments saying that Jordan Lyles must be jinxed or worse, cursed. Mark, I regret to inform you that this is just Jordan Lyles, man. This is just what he is. This is a guy who gives up a ton of home runs and he doesn't miss any bats. They brought him in to soak up innings. It made a certain amount of sense, even if pitching this guy 30 times a year is not a recipe for success. Look at the record of all the teams who've ever done it. Look at how bad the Astros were in the early 2010s, or how bad the 2014 Rockies were, or how not real good the Rangers were 2 years ago. Starting Jordan Lyles, this much exposure to Jordan Lyles is bad for your baseball team's health. And he's never been worse. And this is a guy who, by the way, a career ERA plus of 82. We have talked about the ERA plus metric. 100 is the baseline. 100 means you're bang average based on your park factor, based on league offense against, all that good stuff. 100 is bang average. This is a guy who over the course of his career is an 82 ERA plus, 18% worse than the average big league pitcher. This is what the Royals paid for. They looked at that and said, yeah, 2 years, $17 million. We want that. Not, couch cushion money. Like 1 year, $3 million for this guy. You can make that make a certain amount of sense. The Royals bid against themselves for a pitcher nobody else was lining up to give a multi-year deal to, and they gave him $17 million, and they can't win when he pitches.
We have a question here in the YouTube comments feed from Dale, who says, what's the record of the Royals on the dad's trip historically? This is the road trip with all the player dads.
They stopped doing it briefly. I believe during the Matheny administration, it went away.
Wow, does Mike Matheny hate parents?
Mike Matheny is your dad. That's what he told those players. I am your father now.
Yikes.
I do not know. I don't know if the Elias Sports Bureau keeps that number. Stats Inc. He got a buddy works for Stats Inc. Get him on.
Yeah, I'll have him check it out. I can tell you this much, and maybe this is a good thing. The series or the road trip, the dad's trip continues. Man, that's got to not be a very fun off day. Like, man, son, you really blow, huh? After the off day today, the Royals will take on the Baltimore Orioles, who going into the year, a lot of momentum because they played really well for a lot of last season. More talent this year. Maybe they're going to continue to play that playoff caliber baseball. Maybe they'll actually get to the playoffs this year. They have completely stopped hitting. The Orioles offense is truly anemic, really over the last month. So this is according to, I got to make sure I know who this is. Matt Kremnitzer is this person's name. He is a Baltimore Orioles blogger. The Orioles team weighted runs created plus. You might have heard of WRC plus before. A lot goes into it. It's essentially how good are you at producing runs.
It's a stat that the stat community really likes. It's kind of in vogue.
Yeah,
right
big for the nerds. Big for the nerds. And it's measured kind of like OPS plus. So 100 is league average.
Mm-hmm.
Higher, your
Good.
X percentage better. Lower, your X percentage worse. So in the last 30 days, the Orioles are 21st in the league in that stat. WRC plus at 92. That's 8% worse than the league average. In the last 2 weeks, the last 14 days, the WRC plus is 70. That's 30% below league average. That's 28th in all of baseball. That you can guess who's 29th and 30th. And in the last 7 days, the Orioles WRC plus is 45. That is 55% worse than the league average. That's still only 29th in baseball, in case you're curious. And again, you can probably guess who's 30th. It's the team that has 13 wins all season. So they just don't hit. Like, they're not hitting at all right now. So maybe this is an opportunity for the Royals to play a little bit better. Or at least have competitive games. Or not, and it doesn't matter because we're all going to die one day anyway, so who cares? Like, maybe that's the point we're at with this Kansas City Royals team. I did see this, by the way, and this actually was written, I think, before we had this conversation yesterday, but I didn't see it until after the fact. Matthew Lamar over at Royals Review at SB Nation, who we talked about some of his stuff earlier in the season. I know he talked to Jake on Mic'd Up one day as well. But he actually wrote a piece over there for Royals Review about getting high upside pieces back at the trade deadline as opposed to MLB ready guys. And if you were at all confused about Matthew's stance, the headline of his piece was, I am begging the Royals to focus on upside and not MLB readiness in trade returns. Please, I don't care if they made their debut yet. That's the name and the subhead of his piece. And essentially said, well, maybe because Dayton Moore is gone, JJ Picollo will have a different outlook and will try to go after maybe younger guys who haven't made a debut or aren't in AAA but have higher upside. JJ Picollo instead said this earlier in the year. Pitching is always going to be a priority no matter how deep you are. We are experiencing that right now with injuries. Positionally, from a defensive standpoint, that is important to us. Really, it's how you match up with a certain team that is going to be more predictive. Ideally, we could get pieces back that are major league ready or close to major league ready. If you're not watching the stream, Dan just buried his head in his hand. That's how I felt last night reading this, is how I feel right now. Like,
meet the new boss, same as the old boss, is what that sounds like.
I want to give Picollo the benefit of the doubt because, frankly, I was a big-time Dayton Moore hater for a long time. And it was so bad and it's put this team in a terrible spot that I want to say, hey, the Royals have done a few things. They've approached the game, the game theory, if you will, in a better way than they have in recent years. And we've talked about a lot of these. Bobby Witt Jr., you are a shortstop. You're not a shortstop who sometimes plays third. You're going to bounce around the left. No, you are a shortstop and you are not going to hit leadoff anymore. They're trying to specialize almost to a degree to simplify things for him. Same with MJ Melendez. You're done catching. We need you to focus on the offense. You're a good enough athlete. You can learn to be a good right fielder. You are an outfielder and a DH now. Fine. I appreciate that. I like those kinds of things. We're going to try batting Nick Pratto leadoff because while he doesn't have a typical leadoff profile, he's getting on base more than anyone else. I like those approaches. That is smart. But look at the general scope of where this team and where this entire franchise and organization are right now. How much are you being helped by, frankly, getting a guy who, I mean, based on recent Royals returns, is probably a quadruple A guy? Like, what is the benefit of that?
You can benefit from it if your player development mechanism is that far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you are just churning out excellent players, if you are developing players, if you have proven that you can take the guy who was a change of scenery candidate and make them better. Are you developing major league regulars on a regular basis? And there are franchises that do this, that run them off the assembly line. The Dodgers have done this. The Rays have done this. You know, the smart teams. The Royals, they don't get that benefit of the doubt because I like Vinny Pasquantino. He's in a funk right now, but he's a big league hitter. We're close to 900 at bats or 900 plate appearances into Bobby Witt's career, and he is a below average offensive player to this point. We are about 750 plate appearances in MJ Melendez's major league career. He is a below average offensive player at this point. Drew Waters is a comfortably below average offensive player right now. Again, we are early yet. But on the other hand, we're not so early in Bobby Witt Jr. and MJ Melendez's development, and thought there'd be a little bit more progress by now, I think is fair to say, especially given, you know, look at the guys who Bobby Witt Jr. came up with and was being compared to. And look what Adley Rutschman is doing in Baltimore. And look what Julio Rodriguez is doing in Seattle. And look what Bobby Witt Jr. is not really doing in Kansas City. Now, this is not me saying Bobby Witt's a bust. This is not me saying Bobby Witt's not going to get any better from this day forward. This is not me saying he's not a big leaguer or he's going to be a below average hitter his whole career. I mean, he's going to be a 20 homer, 40 steals shortstop. As long as his defense is fine, like that's a guy you keep in the lineup every single day. That's like that's a useful player. But you don't at this point, if you're the Royals, get the benefit of the doubt about your player development mechanisms. And so on the one hand, that means you need more time to work with these guys. You need to get them when they're younger and get guys with a little more upside so that they have a chance to hit their upside in your organization. But on the other hand, maybe you just need to take a look in the mirror about, hey, what are we doing that isn't working? Because clearly there's something here that isn't quite functioning player development wise the way that it should. If Bobby Witt Jr. is still posting a 268 on base percentage in season 2, if MJ Melendez can't get out of the 220s, can't get up above the Mendoza line, like maybe you got to work a little bit on your player development. And again, there's just so many things to be frustrated by that you end up pulling on one thread and unraveling a completely different part of the conversation. But I think to bring it all back to the point about trade targets. Like, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, we can take this guy who was a top 100 prospect at one point and we can sell that on being this is a good place for a change of scenery. Well, is it? Because it hasn't been.
Hasn't been. No, not one bit.
And if it isn't, then why? Ask yourself those questions. Like, it's time to start asking those questions about who in the organization, on the player development ladder, where are you falling short? Where are you failing these guys?
Because you have to be able to see what you like, where your shortcomings are. You have to be able to see where your blind spots are. I think for Dayton Moore, it largely became, well, I did it once, I can do it again. And it took a long time the first time, but eventually we got it. We can do it again. And it became a matter of stubbornness as much as anything. And frankly, I think that's very obvious when you go back and listen to some of his press conferences, some of his press availability, and you hear the way he described how they were building this team. I think a lot of that does come off as stubbornness. And we don't know exactly how JJ Piccolo is going to handle all of these things over a longer period of time. But if you're not willing to self-reflect and self-scout and say, this is something we do poorly, we need to fix it, or we need to adjust, or we need to attack this in a different way, you're going to end up never getting out of this rut, at least never to a meaningful spot. Everybody in every industry should do that. We do that all the time in what we do. When all of our shows are saved, every single one of them. We have the audio from them, we got video from them now. Every game we call, we have all that. And you go back and you listen, dang, that was an awesome touchdown. Too bad I had my voice crack and I sounded ridiculous and I was freaking out and I ruined the call. What did I do wrong? I'm going to go back, and next time there's a great touchdown, I'm going to call it differently. That's a very basic thing, and not just for people in media, but for people in any walk of life. I'm sure you have, in your life, self-scouted many things before. It feels like the Royals aren't doing that, if that is still the approach. And Dale says in the YouTube comments, do we need more Drew Waters? Like, theoretically, is that a nice piece? Sure, but you can't make a whole roster out of that.
I'm not, writing off a 24-year-old switch-hitting center fielder with tools to be successful. I don't want to make it sound like I'm writing him off yet. The first 139 plate appearances of his career have still produced a OPS plus of 111. I mean, maybe there's something here. Hasn't been very good here, but he does have hits in 4 of his last 5 games, including a home run. So I don't mean to pick on Drew Waters. He's not been good in his first 10 games as a Royal this year, but a hit a game, slowly, maybe it starts to turn around. Like, I don't want to make it sound like I'm giving up on these guys, because I'm not, because I've spoken highly about the progress they made, the progress particularly Melendez made, going from a guy who struck he had like 163 in a minor league season. It was terrible one year, and the next year at 40 home runs in the minors. Like, these guys have shown the ability to overcome adversity and improve, but now they got to do it at the big league level, and it's been a little slower going than you'd like, and it gets frustrating because if those guys aren't going, that's how you get to 18 wins at this stage in the season. And again, all they had to be was bad, and they could be 4 or 5 out of first place right now. That's all they had to be was bad.
That's the astounding thing. Like, if you had just if you had one genuinely reliable 6+ innings, quality start almost every time out pitcher, if you had one of them, you'd at least be interesting at this point. Instead, you have 18 wins so far this season. You are 18-44. And the amazing thing is, the Royals are closer to irrelevant than laughing stock, because they're not even the worst of the worst. There's a team that is worse than them.
Yeah.
It is just an unbelievably miserable spot to be in. Thank goodness the Royals have a day off today. They'll continue their road trip tomorrow when they take on the Baltimore Orioles in the a 5:30 first pitch, or a 5:30 showtime end for us. You only get a full day of us once this week, so you better enjoy it. We've got to get to a break. Rick Peterson will join us later on this hour, but after this timeout, we'll play some either or over under, and I think we both have some Royals questions for this as well. We'll get to that next on 580 Sports Talk. little either or over under here on 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday afternoon. Brendan and Dan here with you. Over under 16 and a half Jordan Lyles starts before the Royals win one of his starts.
Before they win one of his starts.
He does not even have to get the win. The Royals just have to win a game he starts.
16 and a half. Oh, so you're talking total.
Total.
Okay. So I was looking at this. His starts, provided that the Royals stay on a 5-man rotation and keep running him out there, giving him the ball, which no reason they won't unless he's injured. He'll start against the Reds in Kansas City on Tuesday the 13th. He'll miss the Angels, start the opener in Detroit on the 19th against the Tigers, then start on Saturday the 24th against the Rays, and then the finale, a day game, the 29th against the Guardians. So those would be his next 4 starts. The Reds, suddenly frisky with all their new young players. The Rays are obviously really good. The Tigers and the Guardians both kind of stink, particularly offensively.
Yeah, the whole division does.
I'll say they win that Tigers start in Detroit on Monday the 19th. So I'll go under.
I'm going under 2 because I refuse to believe we could go that long. I refuse to believe it. At some point, regression to the mean will kick in. I just refuse to believe it's possible. Even an A's pitcher has not been in a spot this bad this year. And they have 13 wins. So I refuse to believe it's possible. So I'll go under as well.
There are a ton of giveaways on the next and promotions on the next homestand. Starting with Chiefs night on the 12th.
Did you see who's throwing out first pitch?
Travis Kelce redemption night. To Mahomes is my understanding.
Really?
Is that Mahomes is going to catch it. So, yeah, chance for redemption for Travis Kelce's terrible first pitch. That was in Cleveland, right? He threw out the first pitch.
Yes.
Yeah, at a Guardians game. And, yeah, they're giving away that basketball jersey the next night. I don't know if you've seen the commercials for that, but that's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
They got a poster giveaway on Saturday. They got a bobblehead giveaway on Sunday. Like lots of stuff. They'll try and get people into the ballpark next week.
KU night coming up.
Yeah.
Or KU day, I guess, coming up.
Have you seen the jersey for that?
Yeah, it's sick. It's awesome.
You're going to go?
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
All right.
I will be there no matter what.
Love that.
I need more Royal stuff to wear.
Yeah.
I only have the one hat.
Absolutely.
And the one other giveaway jersey I have.
I've got like 2 of those hanging in my closet. My either or over under is also Jordan Lyles related.
Oh, good.
So Lyles is under contract for next year. It's a 2-year, $17 million contract he signed coming into this season. He's made 13 starts for the Royals. On average, pitchers make about 32, 33 starts a season. Over under 20 and a half more starts in a Royals uniform for Jordan Lyles. What I'm asking is, does he make it to next season, essentially?
Over. This year's been awful. It's only going to get more awful. But here's the thing. Who else is going to pitch for them next year?
Yeah, Bubich is on the shelf.
Yeah, he's done.
We haven't seen Jonathan Heasley in a while. There's a reason for that.
Jonathan Bolin is not any, as far as I know, is nowhere close.
I think, they're going to have to audition some guys, but also, is Zach Greinke going to be a part of the team next year?
I find that hard to believe.
That being said, if it continues down this path, like, obviously they're not going to lose every single one of his starts this year. Although I wouldn't have bet on them losing his first 13. So who can say? Baseball's a funny game. What did Joaquin Andahar say that one time? Baseball, you can sum it up in one word. You never know. English was not Joaquin's first language.
That's like a Charlie Kelly quote.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite baseball quotes. One word to sum up baseball. You never know. So it's hard to imagine that they're going to lose all his starts, but like if he's got an ERA in the 6s and he's given up 2 home runs per 9, like I could see the Royals deciding, look, man, the juice is not worth the squeeze here. Like there's no sense in running him out there for another year.
I hope that's the case.
Because I mean, they've walked away from salaries before. They walked away from $14 million on the Omar Infante contract. Like, who's to say they won't walk away from 7.5 on Jordan Lyles at the end of this year if it's still this ugly?
I hope they walk away from it. I hope I never have to see him pitch ever again. We've got to get to a break. Rick Peterson's going to hop on with us next here on 580 Sports Talk.
difficulty with my high school. They were tough.
And that makes Rick a citizen of the world.
His name is Rick Peterson. He covers prep sports and Washburn sports better than anybody else, and he does so at topsports.news. Head over to the website. Again, that's topsports.news to check out all of Pistol's fantastic work. And you can also find him on Twitter, where his handle is at Peterson_Rick. What's going on, Pistol? How are you?
Well, I'm doing great. It's a little less stressful as the days go on. So yeah, it's good.
So you mentioned to us last week when we spoke that the next project for you guys over at topsports.news, your off-season project, if you will, is going to be about the best teams in city history. I don't know if you're like me and you have a big project in front of you and you think, I'll start that later. And maybe it's a little bit daunting. What does the timeline look like for that for you guys? When is that going to get off the ground over at the website?
Well, we will announce that right about the time of our Sports Awards banquet and Hall of Fame and induction ceremony. And then we'll get hot and heavy with it in July, accepting votes for all the different sports and putting out some suggestions for the best teams. And then in August, starting early August, we'll actually name the teams, and we will encourage people to vote for the teams that they think are deserving. And then, of course, I'll have a group of guys that have covered sports in this area for a long time, and they will make the final decisions.
Well,
along with myself.
Well, of course, it wouldn't be valid if you weren't part of the team, Pistol.
Well, it should be fun.
Well, we cannot wait for that, and we'll, of course, be talking about it plenty as the project gets underway. And speaking of the high school awards and the Hall of Fame coming up at the end of the month, let's talk a little bit about the nominees for the various Shawnee County High School Sports Awards this year. The list of nominees is up right now over at topsports.news. In fact, it's right at the very top of the front page. So, Pistol, let's start with this. Which category, because it's male and female for all three of the high school sports seasons, fall, winter, and spring. And every year it feels like, there's so many great options to pick from, but there's some classes, some groups that are deeper or more difficult to pick from than others. Looking through the list of nominees, do you think one stood out among the others in terms of just how deep they were in terms of great nominees?
I'm not sure one stood out, but I tell you several in my mind did, and I can pretty much name them off the top of my head. Fall male sports is deep. Spring female sports is deep. Winter male. I'm not sure how deep it is, but there's two or three very good candidates. So there's always some. There were several. As you know, we go through the fall, winter, and spring, and then we also name an overall. There were several candidates that could have won the overall, and we will announce that on the 28th. But a pretty good overall list. That changes every year, because, of course, it's only open to seniors, and you have to have a 3.0 grade point average. That's the thing that usually not surprises me, but impresses me the most, is all these kids. I was just looking at one a while ago, 4.505 GPA. I didn't even make it half that, I don't think.
I don't think I did either, Pistol.
Yeah. So those are the kind. The Cusick in Topeka West tennis. Their whole tennis team was in the National Honor Society. Their whole tennis team for their different classes, senior and juniors, were in like the top 10 for their classes. I mean, that's the kind of thing that really impresses me.
We're chatting with Rick Peterson from topsports.news. It's the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around here on 580 Sports Talk. Make sure you're following Pistol on Twitter, where his handle is at Peterson_Rick. And of course, check out all of his great work and the rest of his crew's great work over at topsports.news. And thinking about those overall categories too, Pistol, I know that, I've been lucky enough to be a part of the group that looks into some of these, and we talk about the top performers every year. And you and I have conversed so many times about how it's a dying breed in a way, but we really like seeing the athletes, the student athletes who play multiple sports. And yeah, it's great for those who specialize, but girls or guys who compete in the fall and the winter and the spring, or even two of the three. It feels like this year there's almost been, and maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but it feels like there's almost been a bit of a rebound. And I'm thinking of the boys overall in general, where there have been just a number of great athletes who play two or three or possibly more sports. It feels like we've gotten a few more of those this year, maybe compared to some recent ones.
I would agree with you. And I think overall, I think across the state, we're having a rebound in multi-sport athletes. Now, this year that caused a little bit of a controversy, but I still think it's good, and I think it's things we can work out as far as the schedule overlap and things like that. But we went through a stage where I hated it, but kids it was just harped on them. Oh, you got to specialize. You got to specialize. You got to specialize. If you don't specialize, you're not going to go D1. Blah blah blah. Well, okay, I think we're past that, and I think now not only do kids enjoy being multi-sport athletes and get to hang out with different groups of teammates and things like that, but it's shown that, hey, Joe Otting plays three sports. He's going to Notre Dame. Brooklyn DeLay plays three sports. She's going to Kentucky. It's shown that it does not hurt you, and I do not think it hurts your college careers or your college chances.
Speaking of multi-sport athletes and a little controversy, Pistol, you've also got a piece up at the website right now, and we talked about Kendall Yarnell from Olathe Northwest last week on the show, and the drama and controversy caused by her goal of competing in multiple sports this past week, or 2 weeks ago now, during the various spring state tournaments and state events. But because of some paperwork snafus and whatnot, she was not able to do so. And I know the Yarnell family, Pistol. What is going on with them and what they're trying to do to make sure this doesn't continue to happen?
Well, I tell you what, I was very impressed. Kendall and I had about 10, 12-minute talk a couple days ago, and I was very impressed with how she was, how articulate she was, but also her attitude. It's like, hey, this happened, it's over, let's move on. But I think their big deal is and I was also impressed with the fact she made it perfectly clear that she wasn't criticizing Keisha. She knew that Keisha was going by the rules that were in place. What she and her family are going to try to do is try to impress on them that maybe we need to change the rules a little bit. And I would like to do that because I want us to give athletes every opportunity we can to play multi-sports. And let's face it, playing at the state level is every athlete's dream, and it's the epitome of trying to be successful in high school sports is to go to state and try to win state championships.
And I think that sort of tying into what we just talked about, Pistol, and athletes who are doing multiple things, multiple events in a single season or just over the course of the year, I feel like that should be something that's encouraged. Like, we should encourage, diversify what you're doing, be able to develop different skills and excel in different things and in different areas. And I agree with her completely that it's, you're following the rules that have been set out. That's not a problem. But I think it is worthwhile to take some time, evaluate those rules, and evaluate, is this actually what is best for the athletes? Because as you know, as I know, as we all know, what's best for the athletes is what we should all be looking out for first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, it's been said and oversaid, hey, we're in it for the kids. Well, if we're in it for the kids, which we are, and the people across the state are, let's do the best we can for them. And I really think something might come out of this. I don't know that it's going to come out, this week or next year, but I really think we'll look into it and maybe make some. We have like in most cases, you have like a 9-day, 7-day break between regionals and state. So let's kind of go. I would like to see us go to like a state championship week and spread that out a little more, so you don't have everything crammed in to basically 4 days.
Last thing I've got for you here, Pistol, before we let you go on this Thursday afternoon, is we're talking to Rick Peterson from TopSports.news for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around on this Thursday, June 8th. We've got a new boys basketball coach at Care Paravel. Another coaching vacancy has been filled, and I want to make sure I get the name right here. Chip Kiefer, who's a former student manager for Kansas, and head coach Bill Self. He is the new head coach at Care Paravel. How did this hiring come about, Pistol?
Well, I've talked to Gary Cleverton, and they wanted to move quickly, obviously, when Trey Brown took the Hayden job, because we were already getting ready to start summer stuff. So everybody was kind of scrambling. And I think Chip, obviously, he's from this area. He was from Baldwin. He went to KU. He's working in Topeka. He's helped out with Veritas Christian as an assistant. So I just think that that Mr. Cleverton and the people at Care Paravel thought he would make a great candidate and a great coach, and I think so too. I mean, like he said, I'm in the gym every day with one of the most storied programs and storied coaches around. How could I not pick up some stuff? So, and I agree with him.
And I think too, this isn't a commentary on any other schools other than Care Paravel or any other approaches to coaching or hiring or anything like that. But for this school in particular, just a couple years into Keisha now, still trying to get their footing with their Keisha classification and all of that. I feel like the two hires they've made in the last couple of years with Trey Brown, who's now at Hayden, and now Chip Kiefer too, younger guys who just live and breathe basketball, that feels like just a very natural fit for that program.
Yeah, you want it either way. You want either guys like this that are really young, really energetic, or if you could, in some cases, if you could get them, and if it's a good fit, you also like the really experienced guy, because a lot of times at Care Paravel, it's going to be Rule 10 type coaches. Some of them are teachers over there, but some of them will not be, won't necessarily be teachers over there. So you just got to get somebody that's a good fit for your program and your school and your kids.
Rick Peterson covers high school sports better than anybody, and he does so over at topsports.news. Check out the website for all the best local coverage of all of our high school teams, plus Washburn sports as well. And make sure you're following Pistol on Twitter, where his handle is at Peterson_Rick. He joins us every Thursday for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around. Pistol, we appreciate the time, my friend. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next week.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
That's Rick Peterson from topsports.news, joining us here for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around. I'm always super excited when we get to the point of the year where we get to name our, not our, but our in a general sense, senior high school athlete awards every year. It's an honor. The banquet is so cool. You can get your tickets right now, and you can find out how to get tickets to the Shawnee County Sports Banquet over at topsports.news. That story I was telling you about on the homepage that has all the nominees for all the senior awards this year. There's information there about how to get tickets to this year's banquet. That does it for the opening hour of 580 Sports Talk. We'll take a break for the national and local news, but when we come back in the 4 o'clock hour, we're going to have a pretty jam-packed guest list. Jake's going to stop by for a little crosstalk to lead off the hour. Tim Fitzgerald is going to stop by as well, a day later than normal, but we've got the Azure Credit Union Wildcat wrap-up coming up. Plus, we've got today's What is Wrong with You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. All that is next hour on 580 Sports Talk.
Are you
o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you up until 6 o'clock this afternoon. Our lone full show of the week. Tomorrow we're almost at a full show. We're off at 5:30 tomorrow.
You know, that one's on Apple TV Plus tomorrow, the Royals and the Orioles.
Oh, boy. Sounds like a great opportunity for you to listen to Royals baseball on 580 WIBW.
A great chance to give a national audience, a.k.a. people who really like Ted Lasso and paid for Apple TV Plus, a chance to watch the Royals.
Those people might also really like MLS, right? That's on Apple TV Plus.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I got my MLS League Pass for free. It was a T-Mobile Tuesday deal. Yeah, I haven't watched a single MLS. Man. Not one, man. I like soccer. I don't know. Try as I might. There's but so much time in the day, and I have to decide what I'm going to follow, what I'm going to give my sports fan attention to, and haven't been able to get there with MLS.
You know what that is for me? Podcasts. I like podcasts. We podcast our show. It's available on our website, 580WIBW.com.
Shout out to everybody who catches up with us in podcast form.
There's so many. It's such a big open space that a lot of people make really good or interesting ones. I'm like, damn, that sounds fun. I'd love to listen to that. I don't have time. Like, I have ones I like. There's about 1 million I'd like to try. I have a day job. I would like to spend at least a little time with my wife. Like, I don't have time for all these podcasts.
Right. I'm not going to be like, sitting downstairs with my wife and we got a TV show on and say, hey, babe, you mind putting this on mute so I can listen to the Hoop Collective?
Right. Sorry, babe. New Bill Simmons show just dropped. We will get to a little bit of everything here with Jake Lebahn of Mic'd Up fame. He joins us here on 580 Sports Talk for a little crosstalk. And coming up in a few minutes, we've also got today's What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. And Tim Fitzgerald will join us a little bit later on this hour for this week's edition of the Azura Credit Union Wildcat Wrap-Up. Plus, your texts, 785-272-9429 is the text line number. And you can also hop in and join us on YouTube. We're streaming live. Video is live right now. We live stream every show, in case you didn't know. Our YouTube channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. You can hop into the comments section and join in with the rest of the group who's watching along today. Jake, what's going on?
Just living.
Just another day in paradise.
Just living.
Over under 16 and a half total starts this year for Jordan Lyles before the Royals win one of his starts. He's done 13 so far, and the Royals have lost all of his appearances.
I'm going to go with the over.
Over? Oh, man, that's heartbreaking. Dan and I both had under. I just refuse to believe we could go that long.
He's going to beat the Tigers a couple of Mondays from now.
So you guys are going with the theory. Okay, Fulton would hate you too. You guys are going with the theory of he's due.
Less so
or
that
Royals are due.
Less so that he or the Royals are due, more so that historically speaking, regression to the mean will come at some point.
It hasn't happened yet, though.
It hasn't, but statistically speaking, that is going to come at some point.
I'm just telling you this. I hope it doesn't, because I have made some. I bet you I've made close to $100 off of Jordan Lyles being terrible. I'm not lying.
That's pretty nice.
I think the last 5 starts that he has had, I've bet the opposing team to win, and obviously I've won.
We both saw this tweet earlier today. I'm curious if you saw the same thing. Do you know how many times in Major League history, so going back the last 100 years, how many times a team has lost one player's first 13 starts of a season?
I know starting 0-10 in the last 30 years has only happened once.
In the last century, only 3 times has a team lost a player's first 13 starts. This is from Randy Gisarelli on Twitter.
Hey, that's impressive.
The 1992 Phillies lost the first 13 starts of Kyle Abbott's career. The 1997 Phillies lost the first 14 starts of Matt Beach's season.
It's very funny that it's both the Phillies.
It is very funny.
Also, they won a National League pennant in between those two things.
I think people forget that the Phillies are maybe the worst American sports franchise.
Like when you look at like just the history of like a franchise, yeah, the Phillies definitely have a case for being one of the absolute most futile.
Yeah, but they've won a title. They've won 2.
They were also the first team to lose 10,000 games.
Like the Lions are a worse franchise than they are.
I would give you the Lions.
The Lions have a title, not a Super Bowl, but they have an NFL title. In fact, I think they have 2. I think the last one, of course, was 1957.
That didn't count.
When they had to have former Green Bay Packer MVP Tobin Rote lead them to the championship.
And, I mean,
but you didn't expect to hear about Tobin Rote on the show.
How many times would you have to flip a coin and land it on heads to get the same probability that the Royals would lose 13 straight games when Jordan Lyles pitches? Like, I hope people understand just how nuts that is. And it's not so much that Jordan Lyles doesn't pitch well, because he's pitched well a couple times. It's the fact that the opposing pitcher against Jordan Lyles has never been truly bad.
Yeah, the run support in Jordan Lyles' starts. I think we've done this before, but no, we did this for Greinke, I think. The run support in Jordan Lyles' starts this year: 0, 3, 5, 0, 3, 6, 10, 2, 6, 1, 10, 2, 1.
See, that's not it's not like 0, 1s and 2s and 3s the entire time.
But still, 6 of the 13 starts, it's almost half of his starts, they've scored 2 or fewer runs.
By the way, I ran the numbers for you. Heads or tails, if you're just flipping a coin,
yeah.
The odds of getting the same result 13 times, 0.012%.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, what is happening with Jordan Lyles and the Royals is truly unprecedented.
12 thousandths of a percent.
And I have been affected on that. So I'm going to tell you this: when the Royals play the Tigers, I'm going to bet on the Tigers.
I had to step back from the old sports wagering for a little bit because I had about a 2-week stretch that was really bad. I keep I keep my own handwritten running total for the year, and the number kept getting a lot bigger than 0 and had a minus in front of it. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go enjoy the weather. I'm going to go for some more walks. I'm going to work out a little bit more. I'm not going to turn games on until like the 4th inning. So I always think, I missed my chance.
You do know that the bet that you don't make was the one bet that you were going to win big, right?
Yeah, 90% of gamblers stop right before they hit it big.
Yep.
What's the phone number? They do. Anytime we use that particular quote, probably give the number after it.
I always say, the people who are at the slot machines at the casino, they're like, I got to get up that next time. You would have won. It's quitter.
You know who hasn't quit? You know who hasn't given up on his dream? He did not let his dream be a meme. Brett Yormark, because he doubled down again on wanting to be a nationwide basketball conference today, but he also finally got his wish that has been in the works for a couple of months now. The Big 12 is going to Mexico. We're going to talk about this coming up in headlines today at the top of the 5 o'clock hour. I know you brought it up during Mic'd Up earlier this afternoon. Yay or nay on
there's
Big 12 games in Mexico?
There's only one negative. Okay. And that is you're taking away home games from someone.
Yes.
That's it.
Now, and I think you brought this up as well. Brandon Marcello from 24/7 Sports, he reported that KU and Houston, while they're going to play men's and women's basketball down there.
I bet it might be like the double header or like right after each other or something like that.
Yeah, I would think so.
Some of that nature.
Said it's going to be a non-conference game.
Which is weird.
Yeah, I've seen that in football. The ACC did that a couple years ago. I think it was North Carolina and Wake played a non-conference game.
I mean, they couldn't find anybody to play.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And I think I've seen it in like the WAC in basketball because, we need a game and let's just essentially do a glorified scrimmage against another conference opponent. So I'm glad they're not taking away a conference game, but by the same token, you kind of are because it's still 2 Big 12 teams and it's still maybe your 2 best teams in the conference.
And you're not going to like that. That tells me coming up in 2024 that KU and Houston are only going to play once. You're not going to have them play 3 times in a year and it not be in a tournament.
What makes you wonder how often are they going to rotate the schedule? They're going to rotate every other year?
Well, it tells me that 2024 KU is going to play Houston once and then they're going to play, BYU twice instead of Houston or something like that. I don't know.
I get and I'm glad it's not going to be a conference game. And apparently they're going to do women's soccer and baseball down there too.
Exhibitions against local teams, it looks like.
Okay. I did not know that about the soccer game because I figured you can probably find better soccer in Mexico City than the Big 12. That is not a complaint about the quality of Big 12 soccer. I'm just saying we don't care about that sport in this country as much as they do in that country.
I don't think either of us watches enough Big 12 soccer to comment one way or another about the relative quality of play.
No, certainly not. But that seemed a little odd to me.
Mm-hmm. But it would be very arrogant of the Big 12 conference to say, hey, we're bringing you college women's soccer. You guys are going to eat this up down there in Mexico, aren't you? And they're going to be like, no.
KU, Texas Tech, Estadio Azteca, women's soccer.
It said on the Big 12 release that it is local exhibitions from teams in the region.
I can live with that.
I don't know if that's like the Mexico region or what. I don't know. The thing that I think is cool is the bowl game in Monterey.
See, I think that makes more sense because we already know, while it's not college football necessarily that's popular south of the border, there's a big American football fan base there. And that makes more sense.
Like, if you know it, Monterey is, I looked it up. Monterey is only 5 hours from San Antonio. I mean, it's right near the border, and it's a big city, and it is a sweet stadium. I don't know if you guys ever seen photos of BBVA Stadium.
No,
it is awesome. Like it's got mountains in the background, and it's like the tip of the top. Like that's where they're going to hold World Cup games. I'm assuming that's where the bowl game would be. Otherwise, why would you play in Monterey?
Monterey is also huge.
Yeah,
it's got over 1 million people.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, what's the difference between playing in Monterey as opposed to playing in, the Bahamas?
I have heard stories about the Bahamas Bowl being wild. Like they don't have security. You can just kind of walk in a lot. Like they don't follow football much in the Bahamas. So people don't really know what's going on.
Yeah. I mean,
sounds awesome.
It's like, okay, K-State went to the Cayman Islands to play basketball. Okay. Let's go to Monterey now I will say this. Now I got to pull this up because I'm going to puff up my chest here. The Big 12 sports press release in this, when they talk about it, they say that it will be the first ever bowl game in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
That's bold-faced lie.
Oh?
Yes.
What was the first bowl game in Mexico?
Well, Washburn has played a bowl game in Mexico. The Azteca Bowl. It was a Division II, Division III bowl game. So they just say in here, this would be the first bowl game ever held in Mexico. Lies! First Division I bowl game. Additionally, the Big 12 will exploring establishing a football bowl game in Monterey. Starting in 2026, this would be the first bowl game ever held in Mexico. And sue the Big 12.
I mean, I assume that the Big 12 is assuming most people don't even know that Division II plays bowl games. That would be my hunch.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's right.
Washburn won. They won that game 27-8, I believe.
Who'd they play?
A team in Mexico.
Huh?
The Azteca Bowl.
They should bring back the Kansas Bowl.
I'd be all right with that.
Play it right down the street, pretty much at Hummer. Right down. Get on 70 for like 3 minutes from the studio. Hop off on what do you hop off on? McVicker? Boom, you're right there.
They played December 20th, 1986, the Mexico All-Stars.
Pretty impressive. In All-Star team 27-8.
There you go.
Granted, I think football has grown a lot in Mexico ever since then.
Standing up for my bods.
As you should.
Is it really a bowl game, though, or is that an all-star game? If you're playing against all-stars, is that a bowl game?
It says bowl game. I don't know. Kind of like, what's exotic chicken fingers, man? I'm still wrapping my brain around
did you get an answer to that?
No, I've asked like 5 people now.
Andy Reid, if you missed Mic'd Up today, Jake was playing the audio from Andy Reid's OTA press conference and mentioned that at the White House they had exotic chicken fingers. Exotic, that was the word?
Yes, exotic was the word he used to describe these chicken fingers.
So 2 things pop into mind.
Man.
1, it's either the sauce, or 2, it's seasoning. Like some sort of meat poultry seasoning on the chicken.
Here's what I know. I want chicken fingers.
Oh, yeah.
Why did they
That
change?
goes without
Okay,
saying.
let me ask this then. Before I get out of here real quick. Why did we move it? Because when I was growing up, it was not chicken fingers. It was chicken strips. When did we make that change?
Is it a regional thing?
I don't know if it's
That's
even
a good idea. That's a good question.
Because you hear them called tenders, you hear them called strips, you hear them called fingers. I always knew them as chicken fingers growing up.
I always said, do you want chicken strips? And I'd be like, yeah, give me some chicken strips.
I always knew
Now it's chicken fingers.
chicken tenders and chicken fingers to be the same thing. You just said fingers when it was kids and tenders if you were older.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you grow up with chicken fingers because it's more like fun to say.
But Raising Cane's serves chicken fingers. I am not a child, and yet I eat their chicken fingers.
You're welcome.
Well,
I
don't care what you call them. Chicken strips,
I mean, they're
you
good.
can call them fingers, you call them tendies.
Last thing I'll ask you, is chicken fingers broad and you could have different meats instead of it?
No, because they're chicken.
I know, but
If you're talking about like meat fingers, yeah, you could.
I don't want to think about like beef fingers,
You
man.
know what I
That's
mean? Like,
nasty.
no, that sounds
Steak
gross.
fingers. I think you can do steak fingers. I think I've heard of that.
So, what if you're having cereal? You can have a bunch of different cereal. You could have different someone brought up, well, what if it was ostrich instead of chicken? I said it's going to be ostrich.
It'd be
fingers.
ostrich.
Yeah,
fingers,
But then someone could be like, well, what
Ostrich
kind of chicken
tenders.
fingers are you eating? I'm eating some ostrich chicken or ostrich. I don't know.
Real quick before you go,
Yeah.
you'll hear Jake tomorrow noon to 3 on Mic'd Up right here on 580 WIBW. After Livy rizzed up Baby Gronk, is he the new Riz King?
No, absolutely not.
Ah, man, tough break there.
No.
That's Jake Lebahn. You can hear him tomorrow, noon to 3 on Mic'd Up right here on 580 WIBW. I was talking that thing I just mentioned to Jake. I have been resistant to bring it up on the show because it is too online, even for this program.
It is extremely online.
It's this TikTok that went viral of it's some.
The fact that I know what Riz
Yeah.
is, you guys should be impressed.
Yeah, that's true. I barely even know what it really means. But some
Apparently, it's short for charisma. I read a whole explainer on this. Yeah, that's what they call it now. They don't call it charisma anymore. That's too long, too many syllables. The kids call it Riz.
Yeah.
And if you're the Riz King, that means you got a lot of Riz.
Oh,
And
right
Baby
over my
Gronk
head.
might be the new Riz King.
Yeah, so this TikTok went viral. It's some lacrosse player at a satellite UMass campus, and he made this video about a 9-year-old football player named Baby Gronk, whose dad is a lunatic, by the way,
100% lunatic.
and talked about how he met a gymnast at LSU and how he's committed to LSU,
Because Livy rizzed him up.
and he's the number one recruit in
Livy
the country,
even hugged Baby Gronk.
and now he's her boyfriend. It
Yes.
says that in another video.
He stole her from the Drip King.
Yeah, this it sounds like Dan is speaking Swahili. He may as well. Like that is how
I have not.
otherworldly this video is.
It has kept me up at night trying to understand how Baby Gronk could be the new Drip King and the new Riz King. It feels like those should be mutually exclusive.
Our YouTube numbers continue to pop up with a higher number of people watching the stream in the last 30 seconds. People tune in because they want to hear about Baby Gronk. This is proof positive of that right now. Appreciate Jake stopping by again. Mic'd Up tomorrow, noon to 3 right here on 580 WIBW. We've got to get to our first break of this 4 o'clock hour, but on the other side of this timeout, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You, and then Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com is going to swing by a day later than normal because we were off so early yesterday, but he'll stop by for the Azure Credit Union Wildcat wrap-up. We'll talk a little transfer portal, a little college football, and get Fitz's thoughts on Big 12 Mexico as well. Don't forget to keep sending us your texts. The text line number is 785-272-9429, and of course, the YouTube comment section open as well. Would love to get your thoughts on anything we're talking about today. We've got a break coming up. What Is Wrong With You is next on 580 Sports Talk.
What the hell?
Time for a Thursday edition of What Is Wrong With You. Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk. Tim Fitzgerald is going to join us here in just about 10 minutes or so for the Azura Credit Union Wildcat wrap-up. First, though, we've got two new stories going head-to-head in What Is Wrong With You. Trying to take down our active winner for the week. We did not have What Is Wrong With You yesterday because of the short show. So if you remember from Tuesday, our current weekly winner is the Box Bandit, a gentleman who tried to... Well, he did. He broke into a phone repair store. Is that what it was?
Yeah, he stole like $18,000 worth of like phones and equipment.
That is like 2 iPhones.
And
That
cash.
That is half of one of those new Apple VR headsets.
Right?
Are you into VR? Like, does that...
No.
I would assume no.
I have no desire to enter the metaverse.
Like, I don't need to like put on ski goggles to watch Disney Plus right in front of my corneas. Like, I'll just put it on the TV. That's fine.
No,
I don't get it.
I just can't imagine. Hey, I would like to experience real life with you some other time. Tell that to my wife. But no, I'm going to sit in the corner with these dumb looking goggles on and like
look at Mark Zuckerberg's blocky animated head.
Watch. Gonna go meet people in the metaverse. Nah, man, hard pass.
Yeah, no thanks. Anyway, so this guy broke in, stole $18,000 worth of merch. Did so with a box on his head.
A white cardboard box. Not even like one of those like beer boxes where you kind of have like this
the little slit.
Yeah, like the slit where you could see. And that created a problem for our box bandit because he couldn't see. And at one point he took the box off his head to check on his stolen gear, which of course revealed his face to the store owner. When he watched security camera footage, the box bandit was located not even blocks away, like steps away in the same shopping center.
Just getting drunk.
Yeah.
Just hanging out with the boys, getting a little drunk. But we've got two new stories trying to take down the box bandit. And of course, our new stories on What Is Wrong With You are brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications. That saves your time, your money, and your material. Never settle when it comes to metal. Top City Metal Supply can be found on South Topeka Boulevard right here in the capital city, in between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Dan, why don't you go first with your story today?
We're going to New York, and we meet the Shenendehowa softball team.
Say that 10 times fast.
Shenendehowa softball. They call the school Shen for short, so we're going to go with that. Shen softball, really good. They won their sectionals this year, and state championship weekend is coming up this weekend. They go to school late. Out there in New York. So the state semifinals are on Long Island, and the Shen softball team is scheduled to play North Rockland. If they win on Friday, they play in the championship game at 12:30 p.m. on Saturday. It's also prom this weekend.
Ooh, tough.
For Shen students, and 6 out of the 7 seniors for the Shen softball team have chosen prom over softball. They are not going to play state championship weekend so they can go to prom, including one of the top players in Section 2, Kelsey Higgins. They need to put her on blast like that. And I didn't need to put her on blast like that, but it's in the story from WNYT.com. So if the team wins this game on Friday, they play in the championship game 12:30 p.m. Saturday. I am trying to do a little bit of map work here. So the Shenendehowa School District is in the what's called New York's Capital District. It is north of Albany. If you know anything about the geography of New York, Albany is kind of east central, or what you would call upstate. It's not really close to Long Island. So 12:30 first pitch for a championship game on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to hustle back to your...
Yeah.
You got to hustle back to Albany, north of Albany, and go to prom. The players were given the option to go to the prom late. They said, nah, we'd rather skip the game than miss the dance.
Hey, look, if you had told me you can either do this fun thing and then go to prom late and have a chance that you might miss Timber by Kesha and Pitbull, or you can go for the entire time, I probably would have picked the dance too. I'm not missing Timber.
Shen's athletic director, Chris Coleman, is utterly stupefied. I've never experienced this in 16 years, he told WNYT. We've had teams that have changed in the parking lot to get to prom. We've had teams that our principals held the door open until 8:30 so kids could get into the prom and be able to go. Now, the players wanted to play in the Friday semifinal, but said, yeah, we make it Saturday, we're not playing. We're going to prom. The school did not agree with that plan, saying the players needed to be available for both games or not at all. That is the correct decision, by the way, by the school. You're either all in or you're not in at all. You know, we'll go Gene Hackman and Hoosiers and say our team is on the floor. Sorry, Kelsey.
Dang, poor Kelsey here.
Yeah, Kelsey
taking the bullets for everybody.
Yeah, no kidding. It's 6 seniors, but it's only Kelsey who gets named. That's tough.
Price to stardom, I guess.
The school district issued a statement Thursday morning saying the coach has taken the necessary steps to field a competitive team for the upcoming championship game. We wish all the student athletes the very best. WNYT has reached out to the players' families who have not responded to their request for comment. So they would rather be at prom on time than maybe play for a state championship. And look, I don't like to get into the whole these kids today thing because I'm only 36. I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not that old. And I certainly don't want to make this a decision based upon like to compare male and female athletes in a similar situation. I don't want to bring that into it at all either. That being said, I hate this so much. And it's unfair to their teammates. It's really unfair to their teammates. It just infuriates me to no end that you would decide that, hey, this thing that you've invested a lot of time in, you would rather, be at prom for the first dance. Prom will be there when you're done winning the state championship. Go take a crack at it. Go try and be great. Nobody's going to care. Nobody is going to care. Do you remember anything about your senior prom? I remember where mine was. I barely remember my date's name. That's not nice.
That's pretty funny. No, it's not nice, but it's pretty funny.
She was nice, and I do remember her name, but I have to think. I have to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember mine. I don't remember a whole lot about it. I know it was on Navy Pier in Chicago.
Yeah, mine was at Mile High Stadium.
And we took a cruise afterward, like a 3-hour cruise on Lake Michigan. If you couldn't tell, I grew up in a fairly well-off area.
Yeah, I think both of us. Yeah, we're children of the suburbs.
To the core.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, 100%. But no, I can't imagine making that decision. You let your teammates down, and it sucks. So
that's wild.
Yeah, I hope the kids who stick around make a run at it, and I hope they win a state championship without all their seniors. And I hope the seniors, I hope they regret it. I really honestly hope they're made to regret it because I think that sucks.
That is one form of bad decision. I have a much different, but in a way, similarly stupid type of decision. We're going to Busch Gardens. You know what Busch Gardens is?
Yeah, it's an amusement park.
Amusement park, zoo kind of thing. Where we meet a 20-year-old man who was captured on video jumping into the alligator enclosure.
Bro, why?
Tampa police arrested 20-year-old Jacob Percival in Tampa Monday evening. Police said Percival and 2 other people made their way to the alligator habitat on June 1st. According to the Tampa Police Department, Percival entered the enclosure while one of the people he was with recorded it. The video was posted to several social media sites, and detectives say the video helped them locate and identify Percival. In the video, he can be seen on the banks of the enclosure. He points to the crowd and says, "Another wild Karen, crikey," because there was a woman who was yelling at him not to do that. So he went full Crocodile Dundee. Crikey, got a wild Karen.
Oh, my God.
Someone in the crowd shouted to him as the woman in the video tells him it's very dangerous. Wow, that was cool, because that wasn't cool. Wildlife Rescue and Rehab founder Vernon Yates said, quote, "That was stupid. There was no sign of animal respect there, because if he understood that if one of those animals would have grabbed him, they would have killed the animal." And I think that's a big part that most people don't understand, that when these kinds of animals hurt somebody, they become dead animals.
I love this quote from Yates. To the scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the worst, he's an 11 on what he did wrong. And there's no way you can say you love and respect animals and you do something that's stupid.
Percival, by the way, has been charged with burglary, theft of services, and trespassing. I also today saw a story from, I believe it was Yellowstone, about 2 adults who started harassing, that's the word the National Park Service used, harassing a bison calf. Why are you harassing a baby animal? What is wrong with your brain? Leave them alone. Leave them alone.
It'll look good on Instagram.
I hope they went back and they got gored. You know, I hope this kid jumps back in, and I hope he gets chomped on.
Yeah, you know,
like he's Chubbs Peterson's hand.
You know what's not cool on TikTok? People saying "Rest in peace, Jacob."
R.I.P. Bozo.
Mourn you till we join you. Gone too soon because he jumped into an alligator enclosure.
Just dumb as
The
hell.
content and the clout are not worth your life.
Who's the winner here?
There are no winners here.
Yeah, no, nobody wins here.
I hate both of these stories. I hate everybody involved. I hate the decision making that led everybody involved to make the decisions that they made. The box bandit survives.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. I'll agree. Box Bandit survives. This is a draw based on stupidity for both of today's stories. What is wrong with you, as always, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, located on South Topeka Boulevard, right here in the capital city. Let's take a break, and Tim Fitzgerald will join us next for the Wildcat wrap-up on 580 Sports Talk.
Oh, no.
big Kansas State victory.
It is always a big victory when we get to talk to Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com for the Azure Credit Union Wildcat Wrap-Up. Fitz usually joins us on Wednesdays, but because we were on for such a short period of time yesterday, he's joining us today instead. You can find Fitz on Twitter at Life of Fitz, and you can also go check out all of his great work and the rest of his crews over at GoPowerCat.com. Very important first question for you today, Fitz. Do you remember the name of your prom date?
Yeah, I do. Why wouldn't I?
Well, let's ask
remember
Dan. Dan, why did you almost forget the name of your prom date?
Well, it was hastily arranged, let's say. I remember my junior prom date very well, but my senior year prom date was like, I wasn't going to go. And then one of my good friends was like, hey, I have a friend who was going to go, and then her date like flaked out on her. Would you want to go with her? And I said, yeah, okay. I didn't even know her. So,
Fitz, we had a story we shared during What Is Wrong With You Today about a group of high school seniors in New York who had a chance to possibly play for a state softball title and instead decided we'd rather go to prom. So we're out.
What?
Pretty much our response.
I know,
too.
kind of mind-blowing, right?
Oh my! I come to think of it, both of my proms I went with just really good friends, and one was from the rival high school,
Ooh.
and I think the date was so good that I wish I was making this up. Teresa chose becoming a nun after that date, and she became a nun. So.
Fitz, where was your prom held? Dan's was at Mile High Stadium in Denver. Mine was at Navy Pier and then on a yacht afterward. I'm not even kidding about that.
Club level of Mile High Stadium. That's where we had our prom.
Where was yours held?
The damn gymnasium. I'm from the 80s. It looked like a scene from Back to the Future. I mean, what? Navy Pier and Mile High?
Look, Fitz, I come from a pretty well off suburb. I'm not gonna lie. LaGrange Park has some nice parts.
The Grandview. There were a couple of Escalades in the parking lot of the Grandview High School prom planning committee meetings. Let's just say that.
Yacht. We were lucky to have a pickup truck to drink beer out of it.
What was really funny about my senior prom, so we scheduled it for Mile High Stadium. Mile High was double booked that night. That was when the Colorado Rapids of Major League Soccer used to play there, which normally not a big deal. The Rapids, then as now, not drawing like huge fans, except does the name Freddie Adu ring a bell?
Oh, yeah.
When he was the teenage soccer sensation. His team was in town to play the Rapids that night. They had 30,000 fans. So...
Plus a whole high school senior class.
Yes, a whole high school senior, junior class going to prom, and we were not a small high school. You had angry girls carrying their heels, walking like half a mile from like the C lot at Mile High Stadium to get to the stadium just to go to prom. It was hysterical.
Yeah, no, I walked through the concourse to the gymnasium and said, "Let's do this. Let's get it on." No, it was. I don't remember much of my proms at all. I do remember it was Susan and Teresa. So there.
Perfect. Exactly what we were looking for. We're talking to Tim Fitzgerald, publisher of GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. This is the Azure Credit Union Wildcat wrap up here on 580 Sports Talk. Fitz, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being least concern, 10 being the most concern, where is the concern level right now that K-State still only has one transfer commitment this year in basketball?
Okay, hold on. 1 was most or least?
1 was least, 10 is most.
Probably at about a 3.
Okay.
Maybe on Monday it'll be 4. I don't know. I'm not sure. Guys, I still can't believe it's June. So trying to put this all in perspective is getting a little confusing to me. I'm pretty sure the Big 12 has been expanding now for 6 months. And I don't know what happened to April, let alone May. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I'm getting there, but I think he's earned a little faith here.
Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com is our guest. This is the Azure Credit Union Wildcat wrap-up on 580 Sports Talk. Fitz joins us every week on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Gracious enough to join us on Thursday this week, usually Wednesdays. Find him on Twitter always at Life of Fitz, and find his great work at GoPowerCat.com. In regards to K-State basketball and the transfer portal, is this by design, or do you feel like they have missed out on a lot of targets they really, really wanted to get into the tent?
I think they've missed on some targets. I know Max Asmus was someone they really wanted and lost him to Texas. But that happened last year. Remember the Davis kid from Detroit Mercy that they missed on, and they ended up with Keontae Johnson. Maybe that was a stroke of luck, or maybe it was just what was supposed to happen. So I'm not going to worry about this until probably into July. They're going on a tour, so they got to get players for that tour. So you think they'd be coming pretty soon. I honestly, the portal has been such a game changer, it's hard to put a score on, where they're at with this, because they could be fine. They could have something, they know exactly what's going to happen, or maybe they're just waiting for the next thing to fall. They're waiting for that good fortune, and will it come?
There are 2 red shirts from last year that are returning to the program: Taj Manning, Jarrell Colbert, and a player who did not redshirt but didn't play a whole lot as a freshman, Dorian Finister. How much faith do you think there is in those 3 and their ability to play a significant role for this roster? Because if all 3 of them could step in and play minutes, that would certainly shorten the need, I would think, for major reinforcements to be added from the transfer portal.
Yeah. Colbert, I just saw a photo of him from an event there in Topeka, and he looks like he's leaned out quite a bit. He's in good shape. And if he can get up and down the floor, I think he'll be a nice defensive addition for this team. Look, they rave about Taj Manning. I sat in a press conference this past season, and Jerome Tang. I just did our own podcast. We got a question from Jerome Yang. Jerome Tang flat out said this kid's going to be all Big 12 before he's out of here. So I think they have a great deal of faith in him. Dorian's a little bit of a project, but they also feel like they're going to get him a hardship ruling to get that red shirt, which I think is necessary. But I think he's going to be, you know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of Mike McGurl, a guy that's going to come in and bust their tail and be that valuable asset coming off the bench. But, like you guys said, they got 3 more openings. They can go get some more players. They're going to be in really good shape for next year.
Speaking of realignment, Fitz, you have been at war with apparently the entire Pac-12 on Twitter over the last couple of weeks or so, talking about expansion, realignment, conferences, things of that nature. I do want to ask you this, though. There has been some reporting that maybe the Big 12's presidents and athletic directors aren't all the way behind Brett Yormark's vision, at least as it comes to maybe talking to Gonzaga or talking to UConn, schools that would certainly bring value in basketball, but would not, and in Gonzaga's case, not at all, bring a whole lot of value on the gridiron, because Gonzaga, of course, doesn't have a football program. What's your thought on Brett Yormark's vision for maybe trying to bolster the basketball brand and not worrying so much about the football brand of the conference?
First of all, I like the idea. He's indicated he's been told Big 12 basketball is being sold at a huge discount, lumped in with football, and he wants to break them out separately. So I'm really only in favor of a Big 12 basketball only expansion. I say that, I guess, a non-football expansion, because some of these schools are bringing in other sports, of course. If there are separate pools of money, there can't be, cross-pollination here. You can't be taking out the football money for basketball and vice versa. So I've kind of come around a little bit more on UConn as I've studied them. I know football just isn't where the Big 12 wants it to be, but I feel like it can get there. I mean, I feel like this is what Brett Yormark looks at. He looks down the road. And this has been something I've implored a lot of fans to do. Don't look at any school for what they bring to the table right now, although Gonzaga basketball-wise to bring a lot. Look at what they could be in 5-10 years with the help of being in a major conference. And I think that really defines UConn. And also, if he's going to do a basketball expansion, it's not just going to be Gonzaga coming in as a non-football. He might be looking at Villanova and St. John's and Providence or Georgetown, maybe Creighton. I don't know. So getting UConn as a linchpin into the Big East in those rivalries might help a lot. I think he's determined, and apparently he was doing some betting with Memphis today, to get at least one school from the East, and then 3 from the West. So he's got 4 West and 4 East. That seems to be what's going on here. But right now it's kind of all on hold while we all wait for the Pac-12 to take care of their own business. It doesn't seem to happen.
I have no idea if Creighton would ever end up in the Big 12, but that came up momentarily the other day, Fitz. I would be all in on Creighton as a Big 12 member for basketball. We're talking to Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. It's the Azure Credit Union Wildcat Wrap-Up. Make sure you're following Fitz on Twitter at LifeOfFitz, and you're checking out his great work over at GoPowerCat.com as well. It's part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Final two questions from me, Fitz. Number one, speaking of Life of Fitz, the Life of Fitz podcast is back. The newest episode of the newest season dropped yesterday. And what a great guest. How was head coach Chris Kleiman on the Life of Fitz podcast?
I think people, that just watch press conferences and games get to know him a lot better. I mean, his personality really comes through in this podcast. And, that's what I love about Life of Fitz. It's literally me talking to people and shooting the you-know-what for 45, 50 minutes. Sometimes it goes off the rails and sometimes it's more like an interview. And this was a conversation between two guys who get along. And it was really nice. Did I ask hard questions? No, that's not what that podcast is about. That podcast, was born of the pandemic when I started calling friends. And this year we're going to really kind of escalate the guest list. I've got a list of about 30 guys or gals that I would like to get on for about 12 or 14 episodes. So we'll see how it all pans out. But I think I got a pretty good one lined up for next week. And then the week after that, I'm working on someone big too.
That is awesome. Well, we can't wait for all those. And again, go check it out. You can find it over at GoPowerCat.com and everywhere that you get your podcasts as well. The newest edition of the Life of Fitz podcast. Last one I've got for you here, Fitz. We've got about a minute before we got to get out for the top of the hour. Yay or nay on Big 12 Mexico?
Yay, but I'm legitimately concerned. Monterrey looks close enough from the border. People will try to drive, for games, be it bowl or basketball, and you really shouldn't. But I think it's a great play. I mean, it's a way to get into a huge market that is really now beginning to wake up to American collegiate sports, basketball and football. So I think it's a pretty good idea. That's what I like about the guy. Brett Yormark thinks outside of the realm of what we've all known. And adding a team like Creighton, bring us back, brings you into a situation where, they're great in basketball, to help basketball, but baseball, soccer, all those other sports, you get another regional flow, which I think is really cool.
Podcast host, writer. He remembers the name of his senior prom date. He is Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. You can find him on Twitter at LifeOfFitz. You can also find him and all of his work over at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. It's the Azure Credit Union Wildcat Wrap-Up. Fitz, we appreciate you being flexible with the scheduling this week. Thank you for the time, and we will talk to you next week.
Thank you, boys.
That is Tim Fitzgerald from GoPowerCat.com. Awesome stuff from Fitz, as always.
I do remember my senior prom date's name. It just takes me a second to conjure it.
I mean, I remember mine because I dated the girl for over 3 years. A large percentage of my life was with this person. So,
I went with a friend I had just met, essentially, is what happened.
Fair enough.
It was a prom date of convenience.
Fair enough. We've got to get to a break coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. We will talk more about the historic futility of Jordan Lyles. Plus, we've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines and more. One more hour to go on 580 Sports Talk. hour left on 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday, June 8th. I'm Brendan Dorzinski. He's Dan Lucero. This is a little weird. 5 o'clock, we're on the air.
Yeah, what the heck?
What?
I'm usually home by now.
Yeah. Man, what a rough life we live, huh? We're here with you until 6 today, our normal show time. Short show again tomorrow, but next week we'll have all fall shows for you. We'll be back in the our normal window.
You know, speak for yourself. I'm taking vacation
true.
starting next week.
That's true. Yeah, you've got just a week from today.
Yeah, week from today.
Abandoning me, that's fine.
Hey, you know, you're going to do it later in the summer, so
yeah,
you know,
that's true.
It's part of the game.
Downside, less Dan. More side, more Kyle. The text line and the YouTube love Kyle.
Yes, Kyle Manthe, much more popular than me.
Kyle is a cult hero.
The silent assassin, Kyle Manthe.
On the in the YouTube live stream. But yes, we've got just an hour left on the show today. You can still be a part of the show. Talk about whatever we're talking about on the show. Let us know your opinion on the text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. The YouTube comment section is also wide open to you. YouTube channel is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Easy to find. If you haven't checked out the YouTube before, you haven't subscribed, you forgot how, it's very easy to find. Just go to youtube.com. Once you're there, search Sports on 580. That's all you have to search. We'll be the top results on YouTube. You can subscribe to us right from the search page. Jump in, check out all of our back catalog of shows. You can watch today's live stream, any of our old videos we've done, our YouTube shorts, any of that. And you can comment as well, as long as you have an account, and be a part of the show today. Coming up here in this final hour of the program on this Thursday, we'll get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines. A lot of them today from local news. We'll also talk a little bit more about the Royals and Jordan Lyles and a group that, well, frankly, you probably don't ever want to be a part of. That's all coming up here in this final hour of the show, plus your texts and your comments on YouTube. Let's dive right back into our 580 Sports Talk headlines. By the way, I have to interrupt myself here. Mark mentions, hey, vacation's good. Dan, Brendan, Fulton's probably enjoying his. I would be remiss. I feel like it is only fair to report on what is happening at the lake in parts unknown where Fulton is right now. Fulton has sent us alleged proof that he has indeed caught a fish. In fact, he has caught at least 2 fish.
Now, have we heard from him since the alleged second fish? No.
No, I've not gotten a text from Fulton since Monday.
No.
So I have no idea if he's caught more than 2. But he has at least caught 1 fish. So he has achieved his goal.
He took the picture next to the fish. He was holding the fish. He looked very pleased with himself.
Like a Tinder picture. Holding up his fish.
Those aren't the wave I hear these days.
No, really.
Like I'm out of the game, but I hear that that's not what the ladies want to see when they fire up Bumble or Tinder or Hinge. They're tired of the fish pics.
That seems ominous. I don't know if I want to know what they want to see at this point.
Yeah, I don't know what they want to see. I just know what they don't want to see.
I've been out of the game for a long time. My wife and I met.
No fish pics for me because I've never been fishing in my life, and I met my wife on one of those apps. So proof is in the pudding.
I also met my wife on Tinder in summer 2019. Have not been on it since. That's been a long time. I didn't have fish pics. I won't lie though. Had a dog pic. Had the dog pics in there.
That's dirty pool because that's not even your dog. Well, like it's your dog, but it's not like you don't live with the dog.
Yeah,
yeah. Let me be fair to you in the semantics there.
No,
that's some dirty pool.
Listen, Rusty is he's a good partner dog regardless, and he was in the old Tinder bio, but yeah, I did not know that. Okay, well I won't then advise Fulton to put a fish pic in his Tinder bio.
Yeah,
I don't know if Fulton's a Tinder user. I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, it works for some people. Worked for us.
Yeah.
Worked out pretty well. But I did feel like it was only important to be fair to Fulton, who for an entire year was picked up for not catching a fish. That's one of the funniest bits in the history of this radio
Great
station.
ongoing bit. I will miss it.
All right, let's get to today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. As I mentioned, a lot of them locally. We will start with a former Kansas City Chief who is now a bitter divisional rival. Jordan Schultz of The Score, and now other outlets as well, have reported that 4-year Kansas City Chief, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, Frank Clark, is now a Denver Bronco. According to reports, it is a 1-year deal worth a maximum value. After all the incentives, maximum value is $7.5 million. I do not know, and if you've seen this, Dan, you can update us. I have not seen what the base guarantee is.
The base guarantee, according to Adam Schefter, is $5.5 million. With escalators that could get it up to $7.5.
That's a little more than I thought he would get, to be honest with you. And honestly, I would not have hated that coming back for one more year with the Chiefs. I would not have hated it at that number. Maybe a little pricey for his regular season contributions. It's a good signing for Denver. Really good that's a good depth rotational defensive end. They already have a solid defense, assuming it will probably be pretty good again. Chris Jones was not happy about this. We have talked a couple of times about how he was openly pitching the front office to bring Frank Clark back. They're tight. And right after the news broke, Chris Jones tweeted SMH, which for those of you who are not online, it means shaking my head. Not a good thing.
Yeah, sure, he's disappointed. Frank's his guy. And I think that certainly I can understand his desire to remain his teammate. At the same time, it's pretty clear the Chiefs didn't have much desire to bring Frank Clark back.
Yeah.
And we have talked about the Chiefs having a pretty good feel on when to walk away from veteran players.
Great feel for it.
Especially on the defensive side. Like, they haven't missed on deciding, hey, this veteran piece, it's time to let them go. Like, maybe we could bring them back on a discounted deal. They did that last year with Frank Clark. He came back for a much smaller portion of the salary that he was going to be entitled to off the rip. And that marriage worked for both sides. The Chiefs decided that they didn't want to follow what they likely believe are going to be some diminishing returns for Clark moving forward as he gets into his 30s. I don't blame him for this.
No.
I also think it's a good bit of business for the Broncos, who are, and if you know anything about me, I am loath to give the Broncos credit for anything.
No.
Not really my style, but I think it's a good bit of business for the Broncos. If you're trying to build a winning culture in Denver, as Sean Payton is trying to do, you could do a lot worse to bring in a guy like Frank Clark, who won everywhere he's gone. Every team he's been on has been good. I think he's missed the playoffs once in his career. I think he was on the Seattle team that missed the playoffs, the one that didn't go in the Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll era. But not only has he been to the playoffs a bunch, he's got the 2 rings. He's been an integral part of all of those teams, and he's been an integral part of the locker room. Really good veteran presence. And that's a team, that Bronco team, you may recall from last year, had some on-the-field issues with, keeping everybody on the same page, or keeping the offensive linemen from yelling at the quarterbacks, or getting into fights after the game, things like that. Frank Clark is a good piece for the Broncos. He'll help them. I do not know that he will be super productive moving forward. And I understand the Chiefs' decision to say this isn't going to be worth $7.5 million to us to bring him back when we've got. I think the Chiefs think Karlaftis and Omenahu and potentially Dana and their first round pick from this year, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, can all be more productive than Frank Clark. Like, 5 sacks in the regular season last year?
Yeah.
They can be more productive than they expect Frank Clark to be at this stage. So I think all parties involved come out ahead here. Frank Clark gets to continue his career. The Broncos get a leader and a winner into their locker room and into their pass rush rotation, which is still pretty thin. And the Chiefs get to move forward with 4 guys they feel really good about at defensive end, all really in the prime or entering the prime of their careers.
And they should feel comfortable with that group. I mean, that is a very talented group. We know what Karlaftis can be. I think we've seen numerous lists this offseason that rank Charles Omenahu as maybe one of the more underrated signings. A lot of people have really liked that. I know Matt Verderam really liked that signing. Very high on Anudike-Uzomah. Dana has been a very solid backup piece for a couple of years now. I like that Chiefs rotation, but I agree. I like this for the Broncos. I think it's a good fit overall for that team, for that defensive line. And good for Frank Clark that he got a little bit more money than I thought he would get. Or that I'm not surprised if you had told me earlier in the offseason Frank Clark's going to sign for somewhere after incentives between $5 and $7.5 million. I'd say, yeah, that makes sense. That tracks pretty well. At this stage of the offseason, I thought he would go for less than that. I thought it'd be closer to maybe the $3 million department. So good for Frank Clark.
Not the only former Chief to find a new home today.
No.
Demarcus Robinson is a Los Angeles Ram. Boy, the Rams are down bad at wide receiver.
They are down
They
bad.
got Cooper Kupp and a bunch of just guys. Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, who's like 5'1" and 98 pounds.
Yeah.
Ben Skoranek, who future New England Patriot written all over him. Like they needed some bodies at wide receiver. Allen Robinson, they traded. Demarcus Robinson, 1-year deal with the Rams. That's not my headline.
No, that's
I
fair.
just wanted to add to the Clark news.
So I've got a buddy who is a big Rams fan. Big Rams. He does, podcasts and stuff. Big into the Rams. Here is, and he put together earlier today, the Rams wide receiver roster members for this year. Number 1, Cooper Kupp. Okay, yeah, legit. Van Jefferson is their number 2. After that, it's Tutu Atwell, Ben Skoranek, Demarcus Robinson, Tyler Johnson, Puka Nacua. That's a bottom 10, bottom 5 receiver group in the league, even with Cooper Kupp.
I remember Tutu Atwell is so small.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was SB Nation's draft coverage where like their pick grade was just, I am scared for Tutu Atwell.
He's also only like 140 pounds.
Yes.
His
Built like an Olympic gymnast.
Okay. He's listed at 5'9", 165 pounds. I'm skinny. I'm 175 pounds. This dude is tiny. He's built, okay? I'm sure he's like negative 4% body fat.
Right.
There's no way in hell he's 165 pounds. Absolutely no chance. No way. If he's 165 pounds, I'm 220, okay? No way is he 165. That's a bad wide receiver group. Good for Demarcus Robinson, though, because he's probably going to play.
Yeah, he'll get some chances in that offense. My real first headline on our 5A Sports Talk headline is the biggest NFL news of the day. The Minnesota Vikings have informed Dalvin Cook that they plan to release him. They were expected to maybe make one more run at trading him today, but if they are unable to, according to Adam Schefter, they plan to process his release on Friday. He was set to take up $14.1 million in cap space for 2023 and earn $11 million if he spent the season with the Vikings. The Vikings would owe him $2 million if they release him. By doing so after June 1st, they save $9 million in cap space. Dalvin Cook has been a good running back over the course of his career. He has churned out pretty consistent production, has gone over 1,100 yards each of the last 4 seasons, including a 1,500-yard season in 2020. He averages 4.7 yards per carry over the course of his career. It's very consistent numbers, if not necessarily availability, though it should be noted he did play in all 17 games for the Vikings last year. He's got 47 career touchdowns. He can catch the passes out of the backfield, caught 39 balls last year. Like, this is a decent all-purpose back who's 27 years old, and the Vikings are like, yeah, we're going to go ahead with Alexander Mattison instead. What does that tell you about the value of running backs?
It tells you that the value is in the toilet, if not lower than that. It is such a strange case because you look at just the raw numbers, the football card, profootballreference.com. You look at the numbers and you say, this dude's still productive. He just had 1173 yardage-wise a year ago. Average, it was his lowest yards per attempt average of his career. That's fair to point out, 4.4 yards. It was also his second lowest yards per game of his career, just 69 yards a contest. But again, he still went to almost 1,200 yards. And what did he have touchdowns? 8 touchdowns. That's a good player. And yet, one of the persistent, pervasive rumors of the offseason has been the Vikings are trying to get rid of him at all costs. Like, that just seems off. Something seems wrong there. Like, why is that guy someone that you are so desperately trying to get rid of? It's just strange.
I don't think it's because Alexander Mattison is a secret superstar.
I don't think so either. I think
he's been a fine running back number 2 for the last couple of years. But no, this is really strange to me that the Vikings would do this. The Dolphins are the team with the most reported interest in Cook once he does hit free agency. Also been some rumors that the Denver Broncos would have some interest as well, as they don't know what it's going to look like for their running back number one, Javonte Williams, coming off the ACL tear from last year. I think it would make sense for either team, but maybe a little less of a crowded running back room in Denver, but Miami, maybe closer to winning and also much closer to home for Dalvin Cook.
There is also this, and read into this as much as you want, but after the news broke today, a few hours later, Dalvin Cook posted on his Instagram story, a picture of him dancing at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Does that mean anything? Was it just the best picture of himself he could find that he wanted to post today? Hard to say, but it is weird. You don't see running backs with, guys fall off quickly at running back. I mean, guys can go from all pro to nobody in a heartbeat. And then you often see guys, 1 year late, they get cut. Dalvin Cook it doesn't feel like he's gotten to that point yet. Like Todd Gurley played, looked awful. He also has, decrepit knees and then just disappeared. Dalvin Cook hasn't hit that point yet. This is like an extreme example of 1 year early as opposed to 1 year late, apparently. Next headline for me on today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. How's your Spanish, Dan?
Muy bien, gracias. ¿Y tú?
No habla español.
No hablo.
No
español.
hablo. Oh, yeah, feminine. Yeah. No hablo español.
No, that's just the proper conjugation of the
verb. It's not
hablar. Oh.
Yeah. Okay, well,
yeah.
Even more wrong than I thought.
Yo hablo, tú hablas.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
It tells you how much Spanish I know. I took French as a kid.
I took 8 years of Spanish. I can kind of read it still, and I can kind of catch it if you speak it out loud. I can catch some key phrases and get the gist. Do not ask me to really sit here and could I do a segment in Spanish? Absolutely not. Could I have in high school? I might have been able to, but right now, no chance.
I can pick up a little French. When I was in Chicago, actually, we got off the L. We were going to dinner with Abby's parents, and I heard 3 people next to us walking down the steps from the train, clearly speaking French, and I picked up a little bit of what they said. Spanish, though, no, I have absolutely no grasp on it. But we all might want to brush up on it because the Kansas Jayhawks in December of 2024 are going to play a men's and women's basketball game against the Houston Cougars in Mexico City Arena CDMX. I anglicized that. I don't know how you would say all those letters in Spanish, but that is where Houston and KU will play a series of men's and women's games in December of 2024. That was announced earlier today after being reported on yesterday by Pete Thamel of ESPN. In a quote from Bill Self, he says this, quote, behind Commissioner Yormark, the Big 12 is doing a lot to expand the conference brand, and one way they are doing this is by playing a game in Mexico City. Kelvin Sampson has built Houston back to a national power, and this should be a great matchup. We're excited to play a game in Mexico City and represent the Big 12. Also, Brandon Schneider, the women's coach at KU, says basketball is a global game, and I commend Commissioner Yormark and the Big 12 for expanding the league's reach into Mexico. We look forward to the challenge of competing against Houston and playing a game in Mexico City. This will provide great exposure for our program and for our conference. Now, this is something that Yormark has been talking about for months that he wants to do, is interested in doing, and this is just the beginning of it. This is also going to include Big 12 women's soccer going down to Mexico and playing a game, as Jake told us earlier, against local teams. In fact, I have it right in front of me here.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we had a great text on the subject from the 316 who says Big 12 soccer in Mexico is like Domino's bringing pizza to Italy.
Oh, man. Italian Domino's.
Great callback.
Oh, what a story.
That listener's been with us a while. We appreciate you.
Italian Domino's. Oh, man. That's one of the hardest times I've ever laughed during What Is Wrong With You. Oh my!
No, I mean, what is wrong with you? We heard it during the 5 o'clock news, and we just blew out a whole segment so we could talk about Italian Domino's.
That's right. Oh my God, Italian Domino's. That is so funny. That's true though. That's a very apt comparison. But a Big 12 women's soccer team will play against a local club from around Mexico City or Monterrey. Same with a Big 12 baseball team going down there. And Pete Thamel of ESPN also reported that the Big 12 is looking into starting a bowl game. He was the first to be on it anyway. That would start in 2026. That would be held in Monterrey, Mexico, a city of 1.1 million people. I was very against this before this morning when I found out this will be a non-conference game for KU and Houston. That was reported by Brandon Marcello of 24/7 Sports. I think that's better.
Yeah, I do too.
But by the same token, if that wasn't a weird fake non-conference game, it would have been a conference game anyway at one of the home sites. I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about it. I think I can see why there's interest, but as we've talked about before, I just don't know that I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze here.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting what kind of attendance they do. Do the fans travel? Like, do the do fans, like, KU fans want to go down to Monterey to see this game? Do Houston fans want to go down? Because like KU basketball fans, I would assume you get some rabid fans. Maybe haven't been to Mexico. Yeah, you dig out the passport. Let's make a trip out of it. Like, Houston fans going to be that rabid? I mean, a little less far away from them, I would think. I'm not looking at a map, but like, what kind of draw is it really going to be? Like a bowl game, that's fine. So next, bowl games or exhibitions, put them wherever. Like we've had one in the Bahamas for a while. We used to have one in Toronto. Like we have one in Mobile, Alabama. Like Mexico is not that far fetched.
They play a game in Shreveport. Like you can play a game anywhere. You can play a game in Shreveport.
That's a fact.
Okay, so Arena CDMX is currently listed as having a max capacity of 22,300. You feeling 22,000 plus seats for KU versus Houston?
Not if you don't get a significant amount of KU and Houston support coming down there, I don't think.
Yeah. No, I don't
know, man. I reserve the right to be wrong on this. Like I'll reserve the right to be spectacularly wrong. In fact, I just don't think that there is broad interest in collegiate athletics in other countries that don't really do collegiate athletics like we do it.
No, I agree. I get it, but at the same time, I don't really get it. But put it on your calendar. KU versus Houston men's and women's basketball, December 2024 in Mexico City.
Let's get into it. It's time for the
Playoffs?
Roundup.
Playoff
roundup time here on 580 Sports Talk Headlines. Game 3 of the NBA final. You look like you're trying to catch fish, man.
I was trying to catch Christian Brown. He was too hot. Couldn't hold him. Couldn't wrangle him.
Game
Neither
3
could the Heat.
Of the NBA Finals last night. Christian Brown scored 15 points. Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray had good games too. But the end result, a 15-point win.
Good games.
We'll get there. Nuggets beat the Heat by 15, take a 2-1 lead in the NBA Finals. There have been 5 30-20-10 triple-doubles in the history of the NBA playoffs. That's 30 points plus, 20 rebounds plus, 10 assists plus. Kareem has 1. Wilt has 1. Nikola Jokic has 3, including 2 in these playoffs. And the thing that gets me about Jokic putting up 32, 21, and 10 as he did last night. Like if any other player did it, it would feel like if Jimmy Butler had put up a 30, 20, 10 triple-double last night, you would say, oh my goodness, Jimmy Butler was spectacular. Like it would be the lead story, be what everybody's talking about. A spectacular effort from Jimmy Butler. If you had asked me, like if you'd shown the game without like any stats on the screen last night, you'd ask me after the game, hey, what did Jokic have? I would have said, probably 25, 12 and 7 or 8. No, man, 30, 20, and 10. That is utter dominance. There's never been one in an NBA Finals game before. And Jokic did it like rolling out of bed in the morning. He's the best player in the world.
Yep.
I've been scared to say that with my chest because I don't want to sound like too big a homer. But he's the best player in the world. You can't tell me he's not.
It's true. Giannis is awesome. Embiid is great. No matter how old he is, he could be retired. There will still people who tell you LeBron is the best to ever do it, and he is the best right now.
Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, there have been guys who are in that best player in the league conversation, have been a part of that conversation at various points in their careers. The conversation starts with Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
30, 20, and 10 in a finals game. And not the only 30-point triple-double by a Nugget last night, because Jamal Murray had one of those too with 34 points and got his 10th rebound in like the dying seconds of the game, which is really funny because Michael Malone, the Nuggets coach, is like me, not comfortable with any lead of any size. and just won't take his starters out, which is wild. But
Love that.
like I as a fan, I kind of appreciate it. Like I would have started hyperventilating if he'd taken Jokic out and the Heat got within 9, like they did against the starters last night in the final 2 minutes. Feels like order's restored a little bit in the series. The Heat did not make an inordinate amount of 3-pointers last night. They made 11 of their 35 instead of 17 of their 35, which is what they made in game 2 and enabled them to steal that one in Denver. And that sort of feels like what has to happen for Miami to have a chance. They have to make a whole bunch of threes. Denver defended better, contested more threes. They have the 2 best players in the series. Christian Brown gave them great minutes last night.
He's a dog, man. He is.
15 points on 7 of 8 shooting, and every shot he made was either a layup or a dunk. It was a bit of a coming out party for Christian Brown last night.
He's a starter for most teams once he gets the shot back. Like, once he gets the confidence in the 3 again, because, I mean, he hasn't really had it all season.
Mm-hmm.
But once he gets it back, because we know he can shoot. He shot 40% as a freshman at KU. We know he can shoot. Good free throw shooter in college often translate. It's weird, but good college free throw shooters translate better to being a pro 3-point shooter than threes do. It's an odd phenomenon. Once he gets that back, he can start for almost any team in the league. Like, that's how good I think he can be in the NBA.
Yeah, he was certainly significant. Made a big impact on the game last night. And so the Nuggets with a 2-1 series lead. Games 3 and 4 are the only games in the series separated by only 1 day and not 2. So game 4 is Friday night in Miami. Stanley Cup Final Game 3 tonight in Miami or Miami adjacent. Sunrise, Florida, if you want to be technical about it. Panthers trying to get back in the series after they fell behind 2-0 to Vegas.
No chance.
Yeah, it feels like I say, it kind of feels like the Panthers know they're beaten and they're trying to go the Golden Knights into fights, get a pound of flesh on their way out of the series, especially if the pixie dust has worn off of Sergei Bobrovsky in goal. So doesn't feel great for the Panthers.
They might get one. They might win one of these games in Broward County, but they're not winning that series. I would put that at 0% chance of this. Well, 1%, because I don't want to feel that dumb if something crazy happens, but I feel like it's almost impossible. That does it for the playoff roundup, and that does it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Let's get to a break. When we come back, we will ask the question that very few are brave enough to ask. Is Jordan Lyles the worst free agent signing in Kansas City Royals history? Our investigation next on 580 Sports Talk.
Time is running out for a chance.
Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk. Here with you until 6 o'clock tonight. No Royals baseball tonight. They've got a day off, and thank God for that. They will start a series with the Baltimore Orioles to continue the Dad's Week road trip coming up tomorrow. Jordan Lyles started yesterday. He lost. He took the losing decision. He's now 0-10 this year. And the Kansas City Royals, in Jordan Lyles starts, are 0-13. Dan, this raises an interesting question. We are just 13 games into the Jordan Lyles experience. Well, 13 starts anyway. It's 62 games. Is he the worst free agent signing the Royals have ever made? The Royals have been around since 1969. We are 54 years into the history of the Royals. Is this the worst of the worst?
Would love to hear what the text line has to say about this. 785-272-9429. Throw out your choice for the worst free agent signing in Royals history, or throw them in the YouTube comments as well. YouTube.com/@sportson580. So there are, to my mind, 4 candidates alongside Jordan Lyles. What I would say are the Mount Rushmore of bad Royals free agent signings prior to the Jordan Lyles era. One of them is Jose Guillen. Signed a 3-year, $36 million contract, I think 2008. Played 2.5 seasons with the Royals. Responsible for negative 2.2 wins above replacement in that time frame. Didn't really hit like he was expected to. Also alienated everybody. Giant jerk. Nobody has anything nice to say about Jose Guillen. He was traded after the waiver deadline in August of 2010 to the Giants, and that was the end of his playing career after that. That was it. But 3 years, $36 million. Pretty big outlay for a team like the Royals in the late 2000s. And they got negative 2 wins above replacement out of him in 2.5 years. He did not make it to the end of his contract. That'll become a theme. Number 2 on the list, Omar Infante, signed to play second base for the Royals to a 4-year, $32 million contract. Responsible for negative 0.6 wins above replacement. So basically just a bang average guy. Was let go late in year 3 of that 4-year contract once Whit Merrifield became a thing in 2016.
Yep.
So he was waived. He still had $14 million left on the contract. The Royals would have rather slathered that in Billy Butler's barbecue sauce and eaten it than continue to employ Omar Infante. Though at the very least, Infante did swing a pretty good bat in the 2014 World Series. I'll give him that.
True.
You also have, and you got to go a bit of a ways back for this one, you have the Davises back in 1990. Going into after the 1989 season, going into the 1990 offseason, the Royals handed out free agent contracts to 2 unrelated pitchers with the last name of Davis. Starting pitcher Storm Davis got a 3-year deal worth $6 million. He stunk, and they traded him after year 2. Mark Davis, former Cy Young Award-winning reliever with the San Diego Padres, was signed to a 4-year, $13 million contract with the thought that he would not just pair with Jeff Montgomery in the late innings in the Royals bullpen, but would usurp Montgomery as the Royals closer. That lasted half a season. He was so bad in relief in 1990 that the Royals turned to making him a starter, which is not usually how that goes.
No.
They tried to make him a starter in 1991 and 1992. That didn't work out. All told, the Davises, both Storm and Mark, combined over their time as Royals for just below negative 1 wins above replacement. And neither of those guys made it to the end of their contract either. So those are the contenders. Those are the ones I would line up and say, of all of the Royals free agent mistakes, these were the biggest ones. Vance throws out Yuniesky Betancourt, who was not good. Probably wasn't really ever expected to be any good. There's a bit of a difference there. I think when all of those guys that we just ran through, Infante, Guillen, the Davises were added, they were expected to reach a certain level of performance that Yuniesky Betancourt had never reached in the first place. But he did stink, 100%.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at Uni's stuff right now. He spent 5 years in Seattle to open his career, 05 through 09. And in those 5 years, he amassed 3.4 wins above replacement, which, for the record, is bad. That's not a good number. He spent half as much time, less than half as much time, in fact, with Kansas City in terms of number of games played in 2 stints. He amassed negative 3.4 wins above replacement. 279 games minus 3.4 wins above replacement. That is really bad. And they signed him twice. There's like a special category for a guy they brought back a second time and said, hey, why not? Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Also, nomination for Ian Kennedy. That was a huge deal. 5 years, $75 million, I think, for Ian Kennedy. Wasn't bad in 2016. Over 4 wins above replacement in 2016.
Yeah.
Only 2 wins above replacement the rest of the way. Was pretty lousy, 5-13 with an ERA over 5 in 2017. Stunk out loud in 2018. 2019 solidified the back of that team's bullpen for whatever that was worth. It was a crappy team, but somebody's got to save the games.
Yeah.
He had 30 saves that year.
Fielding independent number was under 3. He wasn't awful.
May stunk in 2020, and the Royals had already missed their chance to try and cash him in as a trade chip. They blew that opportunity in 2019 and in 2020.
Attaboy, Dayton.
So, yeah, Dayton Moore being a little too loyal to Ian Kennedy for some reason. But no, Ian Kennedy actually did provide some value to the Royals at some point during that contract. I cannot, in good conscience, put him on the list.
What are the odds that Dayton Moore has literally never heard the phrase sunk cost fallacy?
Pretty strong. We've got a nomination, too, and I knew we'd get one for two-time American League Most Valuable Player, Juan Gonzalez, who signed a 1-year, $5 million contract in 2004. Now, the circumstances there were the Royals were coming off of the Nosotros Creamos year with Tony Pena and had a little momentum. And Juan Gon had actually had a pretty decent year in 2003, a 901 OPS as a part-time player with the Rangers. Only made it 33 games with the Royals, hit to a 767 OPS. And that one wasn't very good. But at the very least, not too much negative impact. Did provide half a win over replacement in his 33 games with the Royals. Did get dinged up, and the Royals stunk that year, but it wasn't entirely his fault. So I still think he falls short compared to Guillen and Infante and the Davises. And then you come to Jordan Lyles, who's already been worth almost -1 wins above replacement, or a win below replacement, if you'd rather, in 13 starts. This is a 2-year, $17 million contract that, again, nobody was lining up around the block to give him.
No.
And his role was to stabilize the rotation, eat innings. He's not doing that in any form or fashion. Although he did go into the 8th last night, which I'm sure did ease the burden on what has been a pretty taxed Royals pen of late.
Yeah, he has already thrown 73 2/3 innings. But this is the thing that's frustrating is this isn't even like, let's be the retirement home for a once really good player. Like Juan Gonzalez, his peak, pretty good player.
Uh-huh. Maybe we can recapture some magic.
Yeah, that's not what this was. 2 years ago, Jordan Lyles gave up the most earned runs in the American League. 2 years before that, in the COVID season, he gave up the most earned runs of anyone in all of baseball. Okay? There's no way this could have worked, and somehow it's gone even worse than expected. I remember when they signed him, and you were appalled at it, understandably so. He is a former Rocky. It did not go especially well when he was in Colorado, pitched to a 5.22 ERA. But his ERA for his career is over 5. Even before he came to the Royals, I think it was over 5 for his career, and it's only gotten worse.
Yeah.
Although, I will say, congratulations to Jordan Lyles. I did not know this until right now. By pitching through the 7th inning last night, he now has exactly 1,400 innings pitched in his career.
It's incredible that he's gotten to that many innings without ever, he's had 2 halves of a good season ever in his career.
In 2019, he made 11 starts with Milwaukee, and he had a 2.45 ERA. The year before, when he was traded, and they traded him away, or they got rid of him. The year before, when they acquired him from San Diego, he had a 3.31 ERA in, 11 appearances, all in relief.
So you look at his numbers as a Brewer. He's 8-1 as a Brewer with a 2.64 earned run average in 75 innings. Clearly, something about Milwaukee agreed with him. Maybe it's the beer and the sausage.
Who are we talking about the other day who had that one horrible start? And it is
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers, that's who it was. It's the opposite for Jordan Lyles. That his numbers should all be worse, except for a really good 11 months in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Whom among us hasn't longed for a solid 11 months in Milwaukee? Everywhere else. I mean, it's just been Drek. His whole career, Drek. And there was no reason to expect that it wouldn't be Drek. You were just kind of hoping it would be a stabilizing force, and it's been worse than you could have feared.
We've got a nomination here for Jeff Francoeur from the YouTube
Frenchie,
comments.
Sure.
Yeah, Frenchie wasn't good at all, but he also wasn't quite this horrible. I mean, he was 0.2 wins above replacement in 3 years.
Yeah,
That's awful.
Yeah,
but
like Francoeur was a pretty good hitter in 2011. Like 20 home runs, 47 doubles, an 805 OPS. Like he had a good year that year.
yeah,
He gave almost all of it back in 2012.
yeah.
But 2011, he was really good.
So yeah, not great overall, but okay enough. There's a very legitimate argument here for Lyles. I mean, this is atrocious, and it's unfortunate that even in the games where he has been okay, he hasn't gotten any run support. But also, he's been so bad so often that it's not like you feel a ton of sympathy or anything.
He's on pace. I think that we really could be talking about him as the worst free agent signing in club history by the time it's all said and done.
I mean, he's already got fewer wins above replacement than Omar Infante.
Yeah.
He's already worse in that category than both of the Davises.
Yeah.
He's still a ways away from Jose Guillen, but if you just extrapolate over the course of the rest of the season, he'll get there.
Yeah, but at least he seems like a nice guy. Or at the very least, not like an openly hostile jerkwad like Guillen was.
Wow, that's like Dayton Moore praise right there. You're not a complete jerk. What a place for the Royals to be in. We've got to get to another break. No Royals baseball tonight, but we've got a little more 580 Sports Talk coming up after this on 580 WIBW. Wrapping up this edition of 580 Sports Talk. From the sports media world today, one of my favorite Sports Center anchors, Neil Everett, leaving ESPN.
Yeah, I saw that.
23 years there. One of the, I would imagine he's one of the longest tenured people they've had on air at this point. What is your favorite Sports Center duo of all time?
It's Patrick and Oberman.
Yeah,
because I remember
a lot of people would answer that.
Yeah, it's Patrick and Oberman. I remember them when I was a kid. but I also enjoyed Stuart Scott and Kenny Mayne a great deal.
Yeah.
Like this is like peak when you watched SportsCenter. Like I couldn't even tell you who. Like I know I like to watch Scott Van Pelt's SportsCenter, but like I couldn't even tell you who does the 6 o'clock SportsCenter anymore. I have no idea. I haven't watched 6 o'clock SportsCenter in years.
No, I have no idea. The Big Show. That's what 6 o'clock was, right? When it was Olbermann and Patrick.
No, that was the 11.
Or that was the
11
okay.
Eastern. Yeah,
Okay.
that was and they called it the Big Show. I'm actually rereading the oral history of ESPN.
Great book.
These guys have all the fun, or
Great
those
book.
guys have all the fun. It is. It's fascinating, and there's just so many great anecdotes in that book. Highly recommend it, even though it's a little dated. It's probably about a decade old now.
Yeah.
But still, great stories from the founding and the growth of ESPN. But yeah, just how Patrick and Olbermann had their great chemistry, and everybody hated Keith Olbermann. And
yeah, that's one of the funniest parts of that book is finding out who everybody liked or didn't like. And it was essentially no one liked Keith Olbermann because he refused to work with people and was just a jerk.
Bob Lee has some very unflattering things to say about Keith Olbermann. They are very ideologically different in many, many ways, but still, it is kind of wild to see that on print.
The other one that always stood out to me from that book, Bill Simmons, when he was there. People liked Bill Simmons more, like as a person, but everyone who actually had to edit his stuff hated him because he would refuse to be edited. He just, my stuff is perfect. Why do you think I need an editor? Well, because it's not perfect, Bill. But I love Neil Everett, by the way, though. Neil and Stan, because I was a little young
Neil Everett,
for
Stan
them.
Verrett. Yeah, that's a great duo. Great duo.
The LA Sports Center group. Yeah, loved them. Mark also mentions it. Remember when Chris Berman did Sports Center?
Yeah,
long time ago.
Long time ago.
He's been an NFL only guy for pretty much my whole life at this point. I love Boomer, though. I don't care. I don't care that he's kind of a caricature of himself anymore. I still love Chris Berman. We've got to get to one final break. The final word is next on 580 Sports Talk.
In conclusion,
You better wrap it up.
Real Big Fish playing us out today. Time for the final word. Dan, you're up first.
This breaking news from the world of college basketball, they're going to allow all of the numbers from 0 to 99 to be worn in college basketball moving forward. First time in 65 years that numbers outside of ones ending in 5 or starting with 5 will be allowed. So I'm excited to see some odd numbers. I'm looking forward to seeing which is the first player that asks Bill Self if they can wear like number 8 or number 91.
Or even like 99. That's going to look weird. That's going to look very weird. Just go. I'm stingy about numbers, but that's nothing new. Final word for me is I'm just very thankful the Royals have a day off. For some reason, last night's loss in particular really bothered me, and another loss for Jordan Lyles really bothered me. So thankfully, they are off today, and maybe we'll get lucky and they'll bounce back against an Orioles team that is hitting as badly as anyone in baseball, except the Oakland A's, because they are still the absolute dregs of the majors.
On a 2-game winning streak, though.
How about that?
This has been A-Watch.
That does it for us today, though, on 580 Sports Talk. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 5:30, taking it into the weekend. Matt Derrick is going to join us, and we'll have so much more to get to. But until then, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Brzezinski. We'll talk to you tomorrow right back here on 580 Sports.